Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the October 7th, 2013 Lake Washington School District Board of Directors meeting. And I'm going to ask for approval of our agenda with one change. We're going to move our superintendent's report, which usually comes after our business. We're going to move it to right before public comment. So I would entertain a motion for that amended agenda.
Move approval with
after public comment.
Move approval with that with that change.
Okay. Second. Okay, I have a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries, so our agenda is approved. And we have next on our agenda the host school and recognition. And I think what I'll do is let you introduce it, and then the board is going to move to the audience so that we can see everything from that end and not the backsides of people and students and what all in the future.
Just to add to that, it's interesting because we've got screens up here, so when the host school's presenting, we can see what is being shown on the screen, but often there's pictures and things that happen, and so we're going to move to the audience. We discussed this last year. So then as the host school, who is here tonight, it's ICS, or excuse me, it's community school, and Dr. Matt Livingston is the principal of community school. He'll be presenting. So then, Matt, when you're here presenting, you won't have to look this way. You can look that way because we'll be in the audience. So welcome. Come on up to the podium, Matt, and while you're getting settled, we're going to get settled on our seats in the audience.
Comfy seat, right? Well, good evening, directors and superintendent and guests. My name is Matthew Livingston, and I'm the principal of community school. I'm here with our three teachers, Marilyn, Jill, and Veronique, who will be joining me up here and sharing some information about our school. Community school is one of the choice schools in the district. It's probably one of the smallest schools. We have three teachers, so 100% of our teaching staff is here today. It was founded in 1971. A couple years ago, we had our 40th anniversary, and it was such a neat experience because you had all of the founding families coming back, and of course, they're grown and their kids are grown, and it was so neat because they had great stories and a lot of powerful memories of when they were part of the school. So founded in 71, one of the smallest schools, started by parents. And so I think this, I don't know if this was the first school in the district to be started that way, but it was about 12 or so parents and one teacher, and started small. It was literally a one-room schoolhouse, and of course it's blossomed into this huge 3-classroom school with about 75 kids. It's small on purpose, and we joke about that, but it's not just a small school, it's really a large family, and that's how we feel, and that's how the school operates, and that's one of our biggest tenets. So it's small on purpose. It's also a multi-age, multi-grade classroom model on purpose. So we have a 1-2 split, a 2-3 split, and a 4-5 split. And at other schools, classrooms have split grades, sometimes kind of by default, depending on how many grades, how many students are in each grade, but for us, it's by design. We're focused on not just academics, but what's inside the child and the decisions that they make, so we're focused on a supportive, cooperative, non-competitive environment, and you'll hear more about that as we go. This is our school mission statement. I won't read it to you, but it again highlights what we're focused on, providing opportunities for each kid to realize their individual potential. So we're really focused on the individual child and developing where they are and where we'd like them to be and where they'd like themselves to be. One of the key things that we do is when we have student conferences like next week, the kid runs it, and the kid chooses their goals, and the kid picks out their work for their portfolio that they want to share with the families. So it's definitely a student-driven experience. Okay, so what do? We help children develop that strong sense of self. We're really looking to enrich their motivation to learn, and so we're trying to push that, that individual fulfillment. We teach them to be independent and responsible, so good decision-making, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well. We want to build a strong foundation for our kids. And parents, you know, they didn't just start the school and then leave us. They're a huge part of our school, and we certainly wouldn't be the same school without them. The parents are required to do volunteer hours, but of course, sometimes we have to kick them out of the school. So they're such a big part of it, they don't just do their 3 and leave. Shared decision-making, that's an important part of our school. So we work with all of our stakeholders to make our school decisions. So this is what we do. We're kind of popular also for what we don't do. And this definitely separates us from other schools. We don't do report cards, period. We don't do incentives, so we don't have stickers. We don't have the honor roll. We don't have those kinds of kudos, because again, what we're focused on is building the intrinsic desire to learn. And if the kid is excited to learn just for the sake of learning, they don't need stickers. They don't ask for grades. No winners and no losers, so there's no competitive environment at the school. We don't do grades at all, so not only no report cards, but when a kid does a writing assignment, they don't get an A on it, they don't get a C on it, they don't get a grade, they get a conversation with the teacher on how they did and what they could do better, an area to focus on. Most, if not all, and usually it is all, the parents opt out of the MSP. So from 2nd grade through 5th grade, pretty much nobody does the MSP. Okay. If you look at the bottom, we do DIBELS, we do the COGAT, which is the test to qualify for the QUEST program, and we do the district CDSAs, which are the benchmark assessments. We use all the district adopted curriculum, so it's not like we're going rogue and kind of winging it and doing our own thing. We are focused on what we feel is the most important, which is the intrinsic value for kids. And if you ask a lot of kids, ironically, Dr. Pierce mentioned ICS because I'm also the principal of ICS. If you ask an ICS kid, what's your grade, they might say, I have a B. And then if you ask them why they have a B, actually a lot of times they can't tell you. I'd rather have community school where we don't have the letter grade, but every kid can tell you exactly what they can and can't do and what they need to focus on. And that's what we do at community school. Now, I am not naive. Standardized test scores do have a role to play. So because we don't have test scores, that's why it says NA next to community school, and those are the current district averages for passing for 7th and 8th grade. But what I did, huge kudos to the district IT department, Carmen Urrutia, give her a raise. She gave me the community school graduate data. So basically when kids leave community school, we wanted to see, so what happens? Because if they leave and then they fall apart and they're not successful, that's on us. So we need to find out, how are they doing? And here's the answer. So when kids graduate from community school and they go to any of the other district middle schools, you can see we are above the district average in every category for 7th grade and 8th grade. So this was a huge validation for us because, you know, we think we're doing a good job and we are certainly working hard, but if it doesn't show, then we need to take a look at that. So we're happy to share these numbers with you. So these are hot off the press, as they say. Okay, so what are we working on for this year? We share the same focus and goals as the district, getting every student future ready. We're focused on the Common Core. We're focused on high expectations for quality instruction with a continued focus on the students and their social and emotional growth. At this point, we're gonna hear from our teachers, 100% of the teaching staff. We're going to hear from them, and then we'll show you some cool pictures and a very nice video.
Good evening. Each of us teachers are going to take a slide to explain how we are addressing our goals this year. I'm going to speak to math. So this year, we have the Envision Math curriculum for elementary schools. and we're going to implement the Envision Math curriculum that's aligned with the Common Core. We're going to do this with an aim for all of our students to meet or exceed in grade level. And if you were to walk into any of our classrooms, you would see children who are engaged in real-world problem solving, collaboratively, and sharing strategies in math. You would also see students reflecting upon their work, figuring out if we've achieved this goal and making new goals. And you would see me conferring with students and together identifying any misconceptions and correcting those, as well as identifying opportunities for them to explain their thinking, a real big part of our program. We work on children working in groups, listening to each other and striving to understand others' perspectives. And that's our goals in math this year.
Okay, I'm going to take the literacy portion. This is our second goal, focuses around literacy, and we have a huge new adoption this year with the Wonders curriculum. So us as a team, we really spend a lot of time collaborating, in our multi-age groups, how we're going to implement Wonders in our school. So our goal is to have high expectations for our kids and high expectations for us as far as implementing our new curriculum. So students will be able to meet or exceed grade level Common Core standards. So that's our big goal this year, using that brand new curriculum. So they have to demonstrate the growth in fluency and comprehension, and there's a lot of small group work, whole class instruction, and cross-classroom groupings. And we will measure all these goals with, as you see listed below, and Matt told you what we use for assessment. But the biggest piece, the most important piece, is the student self-reflection. So are they able to discover and identify what they need to grow? So that student reflection and goal setting is huge in our school.
So through all this, even through the academics, we still maintain a continued focus on the social and emotional growth. We value and we help the students, our children, focus on making good decisions, taking responsibility, and engaging in critical thinking, not just in academics, but also in the social side, This problem solving, both interpersonal and academic, is valued equally, and we create and maintain a cooperative and supportive environment. We recognize mistakes. We value those mistakes. We're human, and the kids are too. With a strong social and emotional foundation, community schools, students embrace themselves, their peers, and the community with confidence and a passion for learning. And our successes and challenges, there's a lot. We are leaders. We're leaders in the district. We've all been on committees, as we are right now. We're active and engaged with the families and the families with us. We're proud of that. We have rigorous and relevant coursework, again, following the Lake Washington School District standards as well as the curriculum. And we have inspiring students. We learn every day from these kids. Our growth factors this year are huge. The Common Core is kind of out there in the front. We are embracing it. It's giving us headaches, but we're still moving forward. We have an open communication with families, and that's a lot of work, but we really are growing with that also. And last but not least, we have had a huge transition this fall into a new building, and we're loving it. But we're still learning. There's nooks and crannies we didn't know were there, and it's like, ooh. So Dr. Livingston will share some fun things.
So Marilyn mentioned the new building, and I have some pictures to share with you. I'm tall, but I'm not that tall. This is from an airplane. This was back in October, And if you look towards the middle on the right side, that's community school with the white roof. The bigger building with the gray roof in the top middle, that's ICS. And you can see right in the middle, that's the foundation for the new building. So that was in October. And then come February, you can see the wood structure of the building starting to come up with the roof being put on. And then in April, you can see the building is really starting to take shape. But the thing to notice here, now look at community school. It's surrounded on 1, 2, 3 sides. And those walls didn't go up in a day, which means that they had construction noise and what we called life-size Tonka trucks surrounding them. And these 3 ladies did something magical. They brainwashed the kids. And instead of making it this annoying, pounding sound that's stopping us from learning, it was, how cool is this opportunity that we get to see the school being built right in front of our eyes? And it worked. The kids bought into it, which of course was amazing. They'd be sitting at the windowsill watching the guys work. So I couldn't be prouder of them to have the school built around them on 3 sides. So this is April, and this was July. So if you're looking for community school, it's gone. And just as ICS is at the top. So this is the building after demolition, and you can see they're really working on the exterior and the excavating. Here's the new building. This is this month, last month. This is the main entrance to community school, and here's the front door. So of course, new building. This is just an amazing time. We couldn't be more excited. Everything's new, to the furniture, to the flooring, and it's just got that new car smell, so we're loving it, except for your room has a different smell, but we're working on that. To TMI. There's additional learning spaces, so the school is not only bigger, but there's other areas that the kids can break out and work on projects. The outdoor experiences are much more conducive to running around in more play structures and a bigger field in that for the kids, and easier access to the commons, which is where the kids have music, PE, and lunch. And another thing that's a bonus is now that they're in the building with ICS, there's actually some partnerships that are starting where the older kids are going to be working with the community school kids. So we're super excited about that. All right, time to watch community school. You know, the thing about community school is it's so, I like to call it funky. It's funky and different. And if choice schools are the niche, then community school is like the niche within the niche. So you really got to see it in action. So here's a couple minutes of community school in action. Thank you. So if you work in risk management, you did not see hot glue or hot wax or power tools or swimming. That was an illusion. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Our pleasure. Thank you. Have a great night.
Our next item on our agenda is recognition, and we've got National Merit semifinalists and commended scholars here from Redmond High School. Principal Jane Todd is not able to be here this evening, but we are happy that Associate Principal Lloyd Higgins is here. So welcome, Lloyd, and we're going to stay in the audience here while we recognize the students as well.
Well, thank you so much for having us here tonight, school board directors and superintendent, and for allowing us to recognize our academic accomplishments of our students. Also, a big thank you to the parents, the students, the staff of our Redmond Learning community. So tonight, I'd like to recognize some students. Last October, over 1.5 million students took the 2012 PSAT, the preliminary SAT, which is a National Merit Scholarship qualifying test, and enter the National Merit Program. Of those students, only about 16,000 students, which are the top 1%, were named National Merit semifinalists. These academically talented high school seniors have an opportunity to continue in the competition for some 8,000 National Merit scholarships worth about $35 million that will be offered in the spring. To be considered for the Merit Scholar Award, the Scholarship Award, semifinalists must fulfill several requirements to advance to the finalist level of the competition. About 90% of the semifinalists are expected to attend finalist standing, and more than half of the finalists will win National Merit Scholarships, earning the Merit Scholar title. So the National Merit semifinalists from Redmond High School are, and as I call your name, students, please step to the front and be recognized. And I'm going to apologize now for some of the name pronunciations because I'm trying to practice on how to pronounce these. So the first student is Cameron Aker, and if you're here, please step forward. Sahana Sudambi. And there's quite a few names, so what I'll have you do is, as I call your name, step forward, and then we'll give a round of applause at the end, because we have a lot of students to recognize. So Aaron Dietrich, Sarang Joshi, Dasha Kadach, Samhita Karnadi, Andrew Lee, Nathan Moon, Magana Nunavath, if I have that right, Hannah Parrish, Jennifer Perry, Deanna Wren, Margaret Robinson, Emily Rockhill, Hannah Yang, and Alex Zhao. So now please recognize the students with a big round of applause. So students, hopefully you have your forms that you can kind of introduce yourself again and just say where you might be going to school, what you're interested in, and very briefly what else you would like to add.
I'm Dasha Kadach. I'm undecided.
All right, I guess I'll get started. My name's Cameron Acker. I'm a senior at Redmond High School, like the rest of my friends up here. I hope to go into some sort of engineering field someday. I'm looking at schools MIT and Stanford, probably are my top choices. And I think the last thing, I don't have my sheet with me, but the last thing was a educational experience. And I think one of my favorite classes I've ever taken was AP Computer Science. I got to take that in 10th grade. The teacher was amazing. I spent all the time basically just messing around with my friend Sarong. I learned a lot about coding. I learned a lot about technology. It was just a great time. So that's Cameron. That's me.
Hi, I'm Sahana. I'm also a senior at Redmond. I'm interested in going into linguistics as well as engineering. I'm looking at probably CMU and Cornell as my top colleges. My best educational experience would probably have to be physics last year with Mr. Gehring, and I definitely learned a lot about like kinematics and vectors that I used in robotics and actually won us design awards in our notebook, so pretty cool.
Hello, I'm Aaron Dietrich, and I'm planning on studying electrical engineering. My top schools are the University of Washington and the University of British Columbia. And my favorite class would probably be 9th grade physics because of the subject matter and because of all of the ways that we learned the applications of physics outside the classroom.
Hi, my name is Sarang Joshi. I am a senior at Redmond High School, big surprise. I probably want to go into some sort of computer science or computer engineering field. I should break the stereotype, but I can't because I just love computer science. My top colleges are probably MIT and UC Berkeley. And if I want to choose the best class, I guess it would be AP Computer Science, like Cameron. That was just wonderful and really opened my eyes, and that's probably the first time I'd actually go beyond something I'd really learned. It was my own form of art because I couldn't draw a straight line for my life, and I found a new outlet for my creativity, so that's pretty fun.
Hi, my name is Samhita, and I want to go into some field of engineering. I don't exactly know. Sorry? Okay. So I want to go into some type of engineering. I don't exactly know which one yet, and so I'm looking at some of the tech colleges that my friends up here have already mentioned, and I think my best educational experience to date was AP Physics last year, because I've always liked math and science, but AP Physics shows you how you can apply the concepts that you learn in AP Calculus to real-world problems, and it's really nice to see how everything falls together and into place.
Hello, my name's Andrew, and I'm interested in basically anything math and science related, so that really narrows down my choices, doesn't it? But, so my favorite educational experience would be, as said before, taking AP Comp Sci, which thankfully enough has added yet another interest into my multifarious,
Hi, I'm Nathan Moon. I'm undecided as to what I want to study in college, but my top school is probably University of Washington. And my favorite academic experience is probably going to Europe for about 2 weeks with some of these people on a class trip in the summer of my freshman year.
Hi, I'm Megan Nunvoth. I want to study bioengineering in college, and my top choices are Cornell and Caltech. I think that my best educational experience would be having to take AP Calculus, because I felt like the class really opened me up to the beauty of math and how some things about math you can't just do with formulas and equations, but it's a lot of conceptual thinking, so I really like that.
I'm Deanna Wren. My top choice for colleges would be probably Carnegie Mellon. I'm planning to double major in piano performance and nuclear chemistry. I want to study things that blow up, yes. But more importantly, I'm interested in studying energy science.
Hi, I'm Maggie Robinson. I'm interested in STEM fields, haven't really chosen which, looking at the UW. My favorite class so far has been 9th grade world history because I had just great classmates and learned a lot about the world.
Hi, I'm Hannah Yang. I'm going to change up the pattern a little bit. I'm not really that into science compared to everyone else. I'm planning to go into law. And one of my favorite classes so far would actually have to be AP Psychology, which was my easiest class last year, but that was because it was extremely discussion-based, and that's what made it really interesting. I got to pick the brains of everyone around me, and I do that usually, but it was more fun in class, so.
I'm Emily Rockhill, and I'm planning to study biology in college, I think. I'm looking at Pomona as my top choice right now. And I think my best educational experience was actually in elementary school, going to Pull Out Quest with Mrs. Thacker.
Hi, I'm Alec. Has that been up there, like, for the last 5 minutes? Oh boy. And I'm looking into Undecided, the greatest college major, at University of Pennsylvania, Johns Hopkins, and Northwestern. I'm kind of tied up there. I'd say my favorite educational experience would be the constitutional amendment paper that we did for AP United States History last year, because I got to talk about my truly insane ideas for reforming the government, and the rest of the class had to listen. Should I just throw it?
Yes, thank you so much, students, and congratulations. You may be seated.
As the students are returning to your seats, and just another round of applause for that impressive group. There's one other impressive group here this evening that we want to recognize, and that's the parents of all of these wonderful students. So could the parents please stand up? Stand up. Yeah, if the parents could please stand up, thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. Congratulations to all the students.
We have more.
You have more?
We have more.
Oh, wait, there's more. So, yes.
I'm only about half. We have commended.
We've got a lot more to recognize. Okay, back to you, Lloyd.
You thought we were done, didn't you? The next group, National Merit Commended Scholars. Over 1.5 million students took the 2012 PSAT last October and entered the National Merit Program. Of those students, only about 34,000 students, the top 5%, were named commended students in the 2014 National Merit Scholarship Program. These students are recognized for their outstanding potential for academic success. So students, when I call your names, please stand. Please come forward. Karen I. Kamya Bijawat. Peter Breckner. Elizabeth Brown. Mai Brunson. Catherine Carter. Alexander Casanyas. Bren Colbert. Emilio Cunningham. Nathan Dillon. Kelsey Dunn. Vadim Eksarevsky. I'm going to say that again. Eksarevsky. I think that's correct. Got it. Okay. Caitlin Harrison. Sarah Horn. Sarah Hughes. Austin Kinzer. Zachary Kerwin. Andrew Clementiev. Ian Mills. Ezra Owen Clore. Monica Pan. Zachary Packer. Vikram Reedy. Holly Scott. Preruk Opathiyi. I think that's right. Opathiyi. Is that right? Opaviai? Okay. These kids never get in trouble, so I don't know their names. Hannah Evenhoff. Elaine Wang. Christian Whitehouse. And Sarah Wilsey. Congratulations for being commended.
Hi, my name is Karen I. I'm currently undecided in what I plan on studying in college, but my top choices are probably Pomona College and Columbia University. And my best educational experience was probably 10th grade world history with Mr. McDonald, just because I absolutely adored Mr. McDonald as a teacher because he was so passionate for the topic, and I've always loved history.
I'm Kamiya. I probably want to study medicine in college, and my top choice is probably Stanford. And my, what is the last one? Educational experience would probably be AP Chem last year, just because chemistry is really interesting, and Mr. Miller is a great teacher.
Hi, my name is Peter Beckner, and the college that I wish to attend, that would be the University of Washington. There are others on my list too, but UW is on the top. College majors that I plan to go into, top choices would be mathematics and environmental science or studies. I also have engineering and technology on the list. Best educational experience to date would be the Do It program at the University of Washington. Do any of you know what that is? I'm not sure if I should take the time to explain it. Anyway, next person.
Hi, I'm May, and I don't know what I want to major in college, but I'm looking at University of Washington and Columbia. And I would say my best educational experience, I enjoyed my speech and debate class last year. It may not have been the most rigorous course, but it was a good way for me to develop more structured ways to express my opinions, because I tend to hold strong opinions.
I'm Nathan Dillon. I don't know what I'm going to major in yet in college, but it's probably going to be something engineering related or maybe computer science. My top choice for college would probably be UW or maybe Wazoo. And my best educational experience was probably 9th grade world history because of my teacher, Mr. Blumhoff, who tended to go off on a lot of tangents that had nothing to do with the class, but were very funny and interesting and had a lot of life lessons in them. So.
Hi, I'm Vadim Ekstrevsky, and my major of choice is probably going to be computer science, and my top colleges are going to be University of Washington and UC Berkeley. And my most interesting educational experience so far probably has to be AP Chemistry class last year, because our teacher, Mr. Miller, was just really great, and also that class was just really interesting for me, and I just found a lot of chemistry really fun to do.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Harrison. I'm not quite sure what I want to study in college yet, but I know it's something along the lines of either the sciences, Spanish, or English. And I know that I do want to go to Whitman College. And in terms of best educational experience, it would probably be in AP Bio last year, where we got to actually transform bacteria by putting genes into them. And it was the coolest thing ever because we got to actually make a difference in how the bacteria were expressing themselves. It was sort of the first foray into really advanced science that I had done, and it was really, really cool.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hughes. I want to study music education at Oregon State University, and my best educational experience to date has been being in the Redmond Band program. It's like actually the best thing ever. Mr. Robertson's great.
I'm Sarah Horn, and I want to study English and classics either at Reed College or Goucher College. And my best educational experience to date was my 10th grade English class with Miss Badger, because she was the most inspiring teacher I ever had, and she taught me how to fully appreciate literature.
Hi, I'm Austin Kinzer. I plan on studying engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder. My best educational experience was spending 3 weeks in Spain this last summer. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Andrew Clementiev. I plan on going to the DigiPen Institute of Technology, and for my major, I'm going to be doing game programming, specifically AI-type programming. So when we're all in the Matrix, I'm the guy to blame. And my best educational experience, I think, would have had to been my 10th grade computer science class, where Mr. Osborne, instead of a final, gave us cookies, because we'd already done it.
First off, I'd just like to say how awful it is to go to Redmond High School, where top 5% is actually second place. But I'd have to say the colleges I'm looking at are Stanford and UW. I'm probably looking at majors in political science and or biology. And my best educational experience has probably been AP Government with Mr. Notaboom this semester, because it's really rekindled that love of learning that junior year killed.
My name's Prerak Upadhyay. I'm undecided, but I think I want to study at UW, UC Berkeley, or NYU. My best educational experience was 9th grade physics with Mr. Saxby, because the teacher was so great. He was hilarious and made learning really great. Sarah.
I'm Sarah Wilsey. I'm planning on going to Washington State to study pre-veterinary animal sciences, and then hopefully Colorado State for vet school. My favorite experience so far was probably AP Chemistry last year, because it's my favorite subject. It was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of experiments that may or may not have involved explosions.
Thank you so much, students, and congratulations. You're welcome. Got two more. So very quickly. Okay, again, if the parents of those students are here, please stand and be recognized. Okay, just two more students. Only approximately 1,600 Black American high school seniors have been named National Achievement Scholarship Program semifinalists. These scholastically talented young men and women now have an opportunity to continue in the competition for approximately 800 Achievement Scholarship Awards worth about $2.5 million that will be offered in the spring. To be considered for a National Achievement Scholarship, semifinalists must fulfill several requirements to advance to the finalist level of the competition. About 80% of the semifinalists are expected to attain finalist standing, and more than half of the finalists will win an Achievement Award, a Scholarship Award. The 2014 National Achievement Scholar Program semifinalist from Redmond High School is Emilio Cunningham, and I don't know if he's here tonight, but congratulations to Emilio. And then finally, the National Hispanic Recognition Program, the NHRP, was initiated in 1983 to identify outstanding Hispanic Latino high school students. This year, the NHRP is recognizing about 5,300 Hispanic Latino students selected from a pool of over 259,000 who took the 2012 PSAT. Students recognized by the NHRP are at least 1/4 Hispanic Latino and have achieved a minimum PSAT score for their region. Students with a cumulative GPA of 3.5 or higher are designated as scholars, and those with a junior year cumulative GPA of 3.0 to 4.0 are designated as honorable mentions. The honorable mention 2013-2014 National Hispanic recognition program student from Redmond High School is Maximilian Ayala. Is Maximilian here? So again, congratulations to all the students. I'll have all the certificates at school tomorrow, so drop by the main office and pick them up. Thank you very much.
He was keeping data and statistics. I was laughing. So you said. How it's mine thing. Yeah, we do need that field too. The humanities are important. Very.
Yeah, even more important.
Those policy comments are done.
Okay, our next time on the agenda is for our public comment time. And we've got some folks who've signed up to speak this evening, and some of these are, I think, new to coming to the board meeting. So I thought I'd do a little description and explanation of what our board meetings are about and about the public comment time. School board meetings are required by law to do their business in public, so our meetings really are the school board's business meeting. And with that, we've, as a board, decided many years ago to add some other things, like tonight with the host school and recognition of students that are beyond what we do as far as business of a board. And one of the other things that we do is to have an opportunity for public comment. And just for clarification, that the comment time is really just that. It's a time for the public, if they want to speak to the board, to come before us and share their thoughts or opinions or questions or whatever. It is not a dialogue time between the board and the public. It is a time for us to hear what you have to say. We certainly have other opportunities for the public to get in touch with us, either by email or phone calls or in person, where dialogue can take place. There are times that questions are raised that we might connect someone with someone in the district to get their answers taken care of it at a later time. So just to let you know about, that's kind of the operation of the public comment time. The other thing is we do have some guidelines that we ask you to follow when you come forward to speak to the board, and that we allow people, we ask you to state your name, to tell us what attendance area, school that you reside nearby, and that you have 3 minutes to speak. We have a stop light system, as Arvana will show you over there. I have to give you a new name. When the yellow light comes on, that just means you have about a minute left, and you should really be winding up your comments, because when the red light comes on, that is 3 minutes, and we are going to ask you to be done. That way it allows everybody who wishes to speak to have an equal time to do so. So that said, I'm going to say first names, because sometimes last names are a little more complex unless there's a whole bunch of you with the same first name, and I don't see that. So starting with Libby.
Hello. Hello. So I'm Libby Boucher, and I'm the president of the Lake Washington Educational Support Professionals and an office manager at Samantha Smith Elementary School. As you are aware, your bargaining team remains in negotiations with our association, the LWESP. We are committed to a fair settlement and to our ongoing negotiations. That is not to say we are pleased to still be bargaining. Members are very concerned that they are working without a contract again, and that the district does not appear to see the concerns and needs our members have. In our negotiations, the district is focused only on comps to assess whether our wages are competitive, good enough, and fair. This is a major sticking point. We hear that our Hourly rates of pay are competitive with other school districts. Comparing our pay to what school office staff are making in other districts is just one data point. Comps do not tell the entire story. Last month, members came to tell you their personal stories, their realities. Unfortunately, the district remains focused on comparing us to other K-12 public school office support staff who, like us, are underpaid according to the state. It is not an inability to pay. We are told comps are what matter. Where are the people in this analysis? We see the district's unwavering attachment to comps. We do not see respect. We do not feel our reality matters. We do not see a commitment to the integrity of the office professionals who work for you, and we do not see recognition of the fundamental role that we play in the achievement and well-being of Lake Washington students. Comps appear to be what is driving the district's bargaining team, not a recognition of our unique role in this school district. We urge you and your management team to be open to new information and new perspectives backed by objective, research-based data. Data from HUD shows the average cost of housing in the Seattle metro area exceeds 1/3 of what many LWSP members earn. My members need to be able to pay for the basics. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and OSPI confirms that we have lost ground to the cost of living. When you don't make a lot, this is significant. Data from MIT confirms gaps between the LWSP pay schedule and what constitutes a living wage as calculated for a metropolitan area. Our bargain is in its 5th month. Our contract expired 37 days ago. Lake Washington ESP members continue to serve students, parents, teachers, and administrators every day with a high degree of professionalism and caring. As an association, we are committed to continuing our work at the bargaining table with your team. We respectfully ask that you be open to new perspectives, new data, and looking at issues in a new way. We need the dialogue to move beyond comps and allow for a view that reflects your employees' reality in a more accurate and respectful way.
Thank you. Julie?
Good evening. My name is Julie Wolf, and I just must say I'm so incredibly overwhelmed by those high school kids and my Rockwell group here. Mr. Higgins played such a role in my kid's life. I'm the office manager now at Norman Rockwell. I've been there for 23 years. I've worked under 7 different principals whom I've loved. I love my school as if it were my family. In fact, that really is my family. I have not much family left. Unfortunately, this is the most overwhelmed I've ever been in all those years. We're overwhelmingly populated at Rockwell with 670 plus students and growing. We struggle with space. Parent volunteers organizing a project the other day worked on the floor. I mean, there's not an inch to spread out anywhere. My responsibilities increase each year. With the growing number of students, my jobs continue to grow as well. Students with meds, new teachers. I have 11 new teachers at Rockwell this year. Parents to help, machines to fix, orders to make and receive. You know what we do. I mean, you totally know what we do. I don't even need to say. Although I work hard and am good at my job, I feel like I am, economically, I'm experiencing a major hardship. I struggle to get by on what I make. I live in Bothell. I used to try to have 2 jobs, but living as far away as I do, I really don't have time for the second job, except for in the summer. I do work summer school, and I've done that for about 7 years now, maybe 8. So 5 years ago, the LWESP began talking about a living wage. I learned a lot about that at that time, knew that our salaries didn't meet up with what the other districts were using. Let's see. I was interviewed about this at that time, and we made a DVD about my particular living situation as an example of what many are dealing with. I brought those videos. If there's any chance you might like to take a look at that. Our circumstances aren't much different. 5 years ago when we did that till now. My paycheck isn't any better. I have two daughters. Sarah is 30. She's a lead market specialist for Bing. My other daughter, Kelsey Wolf, 27, nurse practitioner in New York City. Both have gone through the Lake Washington School District again. Mr. Higgins, I bow my hat to you. It is rather frustrating, though, to think that I, as an adult, feel like I'm experienced and effective in my job, worked successfully for the district for 23 years, and yet earn only $22 an hour. I'm frugal. I drive a 2001 Buick. I'm thankful to have it, and maintain a pretty simple lifestyle as a result. Oh, okay. And with that, I bow my hat.
Thank you. Erica? Erica?
Good evening. I'm Erica Winters, a PTSA parent and volunteer in the Alcott community. I'm here to remind everyone that our schools and our district could not function without our secretaries. We have a very high caliber group of people in these positions, and I would like to recognize the Alcott Elementary secretaries as two outstanding employees who have an indispensable role at our school. I'm sure this sentiment is probably felt by most of the schools in the district. Secretaries have a very demanding and complex job. As a parent volunteer, I am truly amazed at the amount of work the Alcott secretaries accomplish. We are a school of around 650 students, and the office staff support our parents, teachers, and staff in countless ways. We have a very large, engaged community of parents, and there is never a moment when, as a parent, I call the Alcott office and the secretaries do not know where my children are. If you have a question, no matter how mundane, they answer it with a smile. I'm continually amazed at how our two secretaries can juggle so many tasks at once. They answer the phone, they field questions from parents, the principal, the staff, they direct kids coming in the office, they fill out tardy slips, they still get their administrative duties accomplished with hundreds of interruptions. They also act as school nurse, taking care of sick and injured children, contact parents when there's an issue, and they make sure emergency preparedness packets are up to date. The list literally goes on and on. Our secretaries are also the face of our schools, the very first people you meet when you walk in the door, and that is truly an integral part of the safety and security of our children and our schools. I believe this needs to be recognized and appreciated. I think the importance of the secretarial contribution to the Lake Washington School District should not be overlooked or trivialized. These employees should be valued. They deserve a raise. The Lake Washington School District secretaries have not had a cost of living increase in years, and I'm here to urge you to move forward with a new contract for the secretaries that includes a pay raise that allows them to keep their heads above water financially. Our schools cannot function without our secretaries. They are an indispensable part of the community and operations at Alcott and throughout the district. I urge you to respect the impact they have on the education of our children and the important role they play at each and every school by moving forward with contract discussions as soon as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michael?
Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Dr. Pierce. My name is Michael Ruiz, and I am in the Redmond Learning Community, and I've been working at Rosa Parks Elementary for the past 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at Support Services for 3 years. In 10 days, I will no longer work for the Lake Washington School District. Although it is bittersweet to leave, I have enjoyed my time here, but I cannot continue to go paycheck to paycheck. My hourly wage is not enough of a person making a living wage. As a result, I've been looking for a second job or a new job for the past year, and even worked the summer school at Rose Hill Elementary the past 2 summers. I've been fighting for a living wage with my local association, the Lake Washington Education Support Professionals, since I started with the district in 2008. During my 5-year span, I've been a part of the previous 2 contract negotiations and the current one that is still going on. I have been the vice president, assisted members, representative members, trained members, worked with various people throughout the district, and explained the contract to members that don't understand their hourly wage or contract language. Now, this is not the first time we have worked without an agreed upon contract. Remember 4 years ago, we spent 14 months bargaining, 8 months with an expired contract, and 3 days in mediation with the superintendent and other school district people. See, I had hoped we wouldn't be here today or last month. I thought this time it would be different. I've been very optimistic through this whole process and hoped that a contract would be agreed upon before August 31st, 2013, when our contract expired. Well, here we are, a month and a half past our contract expiration. I hope that in the next 10 days, I have a contract to present to my members. I hope my members will earn a living wage and not have to leave the district like me. I hope that we can move forward. I hope that we can work together to promote the upcoming levy. And I hope that the school board will show us support, much like the support we show the students, staff, and community we serve daily. What is your hope?
Thank you. Jill?
Hi, I'm Jill Stoddart. I'm in the Rockwell School area. I think most of you already probably have reviewed what I brought here today. I want to recognize a number of Rockwell parents who have come out. We got together last month because of our concern over the overcrowding today at Rockwell and the lack of a plan to address this beyond the levy that will at best help us in 2016-2017 school year. As part of this, we had 152 parents sign a petition that I'd like to read to you. I am signing this petition to notify the Lake Washington School District and School Board that I'm concerned about the current overcrowding situation at Rockwell and the lack of a plan to address the continued enrollment growth expected at the school. I'd like to see an action plan in place as soon as possible to address this issue. 152 people signed this. I think I was out there for 1 hour, maybe 2. Finally, I think I'd like to draw your attention to the chart about the Education Hill schools and the situation. We recognize, and we're not here to just speak for Rockwell. This is a Redmond learning area problem. However, Norman Rockwell grew over the last year. This is after we redistricted, by about the size of the community school. We'd like to get some urgent action on this because, as you see, we have this new development, Greystone Manor, that's planning to build 180 new homes in the first phase of their development. They're going to go on the market in January, and if you drive up Redmondville Road, you'll see other new home developments that advertise being in Rockwell. This would be irresponsible for us to bring in yet a new neighborhood into the Rockwell attendance area without having a real plan. If we can act before January, we can at least give people an informed buying decision. So what's our ask today? 3 things: goals, timeline, and accountability. Dr. Pierce, we appreciated your letter in August, but it is now October. We'd like to have stated goals. We all know about assessments. That means, what is the number that we're trying to achieve for enrollment for the next school year and the school year after that, irrespective of the outcome of the levy? Second, we'd like a timeline. Again, we appreciate that this might take time, but we have the looming deadline of our school year and the January sales date for those houses. We want to have dates for having a plan to meet these goals. And then milestones within there for community involvement. Finally, accountability. Who owns this goal? It's not clear to us. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you and would be willing to be part of that process. Thanks.
Thank you. Connor? You can pull it down further. There you go.
Hi, my name is Connor O'Rourke. I am a 4th grade student at Rockwell Elementary. I love my school because of the great teachers, staff, and students that I've known since kindergarten. Yet ever since I started at Rockwell, our school has been overcrowded. I noticed it early on in the playground when I wasn't able to play in certain areas because there's too many kids crowding the sandbox, for example. During rainy days, it's hard for me to find a place under the covered area during recess when there are so many other kids that want that spot. But I really felt it most last year as a third grader. Last year, my third grade class and all third grade classes had 34 students in each class. It was hard for me to move around, and my parents were really worried about me not getting the proper attention that I deserved. Though my teacher did a great job teaching all of us, it wasn't fair to put her and all of us students in that situation, no matter how great a teacher you are. I also had a hard time in the cafeteria during lunch. I really did not like lunchtime in there, since it is so loud and so crowded. I could barely sit there with someone right on top of me while I'm trying to eat, and the noise was very distracting and made it hard for me to pay attention and eat my lunch. Next year, I'll be a 5th grader, and I do not look forward to being in a poor bowl, since that's where all the 5th graders are forced to be due to the overcrowding. There's no running water in there, the room is stuffy, and we are detached from the rest of the school. I know that any decisions the school board and district makes will not affect me, yet I really hope you consider making some changes soon, so my younger brother and so many other students get a chance to be in a better learning environment. Thank you.
Connor, thank you, and you did a very good job. Thank you very much. Next person is Eli.
Hello, Superintendent, President, and Directors. Thank you for having me here. My name is Eli George. My home school is Eastlake High, but I am a sophomore at STEM school, and that's kind of why I'm here. We know that the name selection for the STEM school is coming up, and honestly, we have proof that a lot of the students, including some of us who are here today, don't really support the name choices that we were given. There are things like Rosalind Franklin and Isaac Newton that the general student body just doesn't like all that much. So we actually started a petition to name the school after Nikola Tesla, because we feel that he's a much better embodiment of what our school is all about. Because the way we think about it, STEM school isn't just a bunch of nerdy science kids who gather together and do a bunch of, mixing things in beakers and blowing stuff up. We are more focused on engineering the future. We don't want to just learn math and follow in the footsteps of great mathematicians and great scientists. We want to make our own footsteps and have other people follow in our footsteps. We want to be leaders in the future, and we want to be forward thinkers and people who can affect tomorrow. We want to be the people who are engineering tomorrow. And we feel that Nikola Tesla is the best embodiment of that. He did things that people thought were crazy at the time, and he got them to work. People thought that he was a magician in some cases. There's things, things that we take for granted now, like AC motors and, even simple things with electricity. He deserves the credit for. There's cases of him, proof that he actually worked for Edison and did a lot of the processes to help Edison design the first light bulb, and things like that he just hasn't gotten the credit for. He's even supposedly, transferred electricity through the air, which is fairly amazing and something that, a lot of people couldn't even imagine at the time. Because keep in mind, this was before people even thought of having people land on the moon. This was, early 1900s, and this guy was practically almost like a magician. He could do things with electricity and do things with technology that other people simply couldn't figure out how to do. And people thought maybe he was a little bit crazy and a little bit different because of that. And, honestly, being a STEM student, I've had people think that I'm a little bit crazy and a little bit different because of things that I say in school. And we all just feel that Nikola Tesla doesn't simply represent just another scientist. He didn't get famous by having an apple fall on his head, for example. He got famous by sending electricity through the air, and that's a kind of a big deal. And we feel that our school deserves to be named after someone like that, and that we owe it to him for all that he's done for us to name our school after that. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. John?
Hello, my name is John Jacobson. I'm a sophomore at the STEM school, and I would like to address the reason that Nikola Tesla was not approved for the ballot of names that we voted on. I was informed that the committee for naming the school did not approve Nikola Tesla because he believed in eugenics. He wrote about eugenics almost 80 years ago in a very different time. Eugenics did not have the same negative connotation that it does now. And there were many famous and influential people that also believed in eugenics, such as Winston Churchill, H.G. Wells, Robert Heinlein, and Theodore Roosevelt. It was a very different time when Nikola Tesla said what he believed about eugenics, and we don't know what he would think about it if he was alive today. Nikola Tesla is not defined by his belief in eugenics, and if the STEM school was named after him, we would not be defined by that either. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Jenna?
Hi, my name is Jenna Oratz. I am a sophomore at STEM High School. And when I came to STEM, when I heard about it, I was really excited to be part of something that was new, that we would be able to name the school, to find a mascot, to help design the logo. And we started having those opportunities last year, and the beginning of this naming process was our ability to submit names. And I know quite a few people who submitted Tesla, and a lot of people were very disappointed when he wasn't on our ballot. So I actually have our petition here. We have just a little bit over 250 students, and we have 450 students at our school currently, so that's over half of our student body signed that they would like Tesla as our name as opposed to our other options. And we realize that the naming process is very close to being finished, but with this support, we believe that we have a strong case for why we should be named after Tesla, and we would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Isaac?
Hi, I'm Isaac Naman, and I'm a 10th grader at the currently unnamed STEM school, and I want to voice my concerns over the petition to name the school after Nikola Tesla. My main objection to naming the school after Tesla is his unconditional belief in eugenics, which is the controlled breeding of mankind. No matter what era he lived in, I believe these ideas are unacceptable. Tesla wrote, I quote, "The year 2100 will see eugenics universally established. In past ages, the law governing the survival of the fittest roughly weeded out the less desirable strains. Then man's new sense of pity began to interfere with the ruthless workings of nature. As a result, we continue to keep alive and breed the unfit. The only method compatible with our notions of civilization and the race is to prevent the breeding of the unfit by sterilization and the deliberate guidance of the mating instinct. Several European countries and a number of states in the American Union sterilize the criminal and the insane. This is not sufficient. Certainly no one who is not a desirable parent should be permitted to produce children. As a century from now, it will no more occur to a normal person to mate with a person eugenically unfit than to marry an habitual criminal." End quote. This belief of eugenics eventually gave rise to the horrors of Nazi Germany. I believe that Tesla was a brilliant man, but that he is not appropriate for our school. As much as this idea of eugenics disgusts me morally, I find more the despair in the ideas of supremacy. I believe it will be a shame if our school believes it is better than others. I feel my fellow students and I are fortunate to go to this amazing school, but that does not mean that we are above other people. I do not want my school to be identified with the idea that certain people are better than others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry? I'm just going to ask if anybody didn't sign up. Okay. Did you want to make a comment?
No, actually, I would love to make a comment, but I'm actually going to let you finish.
Okay. That's the end of the folks who have signed up this evening to make public comment. If there's someone who didn't have that opportunity and would like to come forward, you can do that now. Okay. If not, then public comment period is over. Would you like to make your comment now?
I have to speak as a professional geneticist. Eugenics was an idea whose time, fortunately, didn't really come. It was a sad thing that there was so much of it, but if we ruled out everybody who proselytized in favor of eugenics at the time, we'd be ruling out more than half of all scientists who were alive. The same logic could be used to say that Jefferson should not be allowed as a candidate because he owned slaves. The world moves, ideas move. I thank you guys for wrestling with this. I thank you for bringing it to our attention. Personally, I'm not in favor of keeping it off the ballot, but that's not my decision. Rather, I'm interested in making sure that you have a choice. Frankly, I think this is a good thing for you to wrestle with. I think you guys are being thoughtful, and I thank you for it. So with that, policy-wise, where is the procedure on it?
Go ahead.
Do you? No, go ahead.
So from a policy perspective, the procedure that follows the naming policy specifies this procedure. So I'm just going to read it so everyone can benefit from what it is. The principal meets with students of the new school to explain the criteria and procedures. Students and family members nominate candidates. A committee is formed of parents from the school or feeder schools and 3 teachers, and that committee is tasked with paring down the list of nominations. They then present that list to the board of directors for review. Once the list of candidates has been approved to move forward, a ballot is developed and mailed home or emailed home, and students are allowed to vote. Families are encouraged to help students vote, and it's a one-day turnaround. The committee then counts the ballots, determines the winning name, and that name is presented to the board of directors. So tonight, the vote has been made by the school, and tonight, Principal Cindy Duenas is here to present the winning name. From a procedure perspective with policy, the policy was followed. The names were presented to the board gave feedback about the names. Those names then went back to the committee, and the committee then, as student indicated, decided on the finalist names to move forward to the ballot. So from a procedure perspective, policy perspective, it was followed. What I'm not sure of at this point, and maybe we can have Cindy address this during the presentation, or maybe we can ask that we do that now, is did the students have an opportunity to present their petition to Cindy and to the committee? So I think, and I think we should, I just want to make sure Cindy knows, I think that at this point, we shouldn't have you present the winning name until we get this part of procedure sorted through. Yeah. Okay.
And for you kids out there, I just got to tell you, my favorite name that came to us wasn't on your ballot either. If it was up to me, you'd be called Lovelace. But unfortunately, some other people have issues with that. Ada Lovelace was a fantastic early programmer. Nobody knows of her. She would have been an absolutely perfect scientist, but she wasn't on your ballot either. So.
Yes, he is. So I want to first and foremost thank the board for inviting all of us here this evening, and I want to thank my students because they've been, through the whole process, they have been always respectful, always professional, always acting with much dignity and grace, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much. And I think everything that has occurred during the actual multi-step procedure has been said, and it's accurate. In terms of the petition, no, I did not have the students present the petition to the subcommittee. I said, you probably want to come to the board and present it to the board. So if that's an error on my part, I'll take responsibility for that. I didn't see that in the procedures, but no, we didn't do that. But to their credit, they came in and multiple times and spoke with me. So that did occur.
And just to piggyback on what you're saying, Cindy, I think the timing of the petition was after the vote and the name was determined. So the procedure doesn't speak to what happens this part. Yeah. So there's no procedural error on what you've done. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say, as Mr. Carlson was saying, there are a few names that didn't make it to the actual ballot as well that others have spoken at length about with me in my office. And they just didn't decide to come in this evening. So much like the lottery, everyone loves it till you're on the wait list. This is a little bit of that. People love the name unless it's not the one they voted for. So no one, well, a few of us know, but I understand that we'll wait it out a bit.
Well, I guess this is just my personal opinion. I think with having over half the students, at least on this particular petition, if it would be okay with the school and everyone else, that maybe this could kind of go back and let you all work it there rather than trying to make a decision tonight on how you want to handle the petition, who it should go before, kind of make that a school. Obviously, there's two sides to the story to this. It's not just one-sided, but to allow then you all to be comfortable with whatever decision you make to either stick with where you've been or if you think the process needs to be revisited.
Well, and Dr. Pierce, I guess we'll talk. You'll give me some direction.
So is that the consensus of the board?
I have real strong problems with what's happening right now, but I'm not sure how we resolve it at this point. We've gone through a very long process that's been very thoughtful. I don't know why. I mean, do we really have over half the students signing this petition? I don't know. It doesn't seem quite logical. I also have real problems. You know, there's lots of people who have done really wonderful things in the world that have also done some really crappy and horrid things at the same time. And, you know, there are names that do get ruined by subsequent use of those names. There were many names I would have used for my children, except they would bring really bad images to people's minds. You may find it funny, but we have to live with this name for a very, very long time.
I'm not suggesting Lovelace anymore. I just liked it.
And there are many accomplished scientists in the world who had personal views I find abhorrent. Mm-hmm. And it's not just trying to, you know, pick something that's avant-garde. It's also thinking of its impact on other people. Eugenics has had a long and sordid history in the 20th century, and we have had many things come of it for which we are still paying the price and are very, very, I hope, sorry for. And I think we have to consider that and the images that it will raise. And we may not like the fact that that's what may come first to people's minds, but we do have to deal with reality. And I would have real strong problems with the name of a school being someone so prominently associated with what I consider one of the most sordid periods of human history.
I guess I'd just add to what Nancy's saying from the standpoint that, you know, as you know, I've been here on this board for some time, and one of my particular concerns and areas that I've watched us grow and really, you know, really do a great job, and that is what we've done with inclusion and educating all children. And I think, you know, going along with kind of what Nancy was saying, I would hate to see us send the wrong signal about what we've been trying to accomplish as a district over the last 25 years in terms of making sure that every child is educated to the extent that they can. And unfortunately, eugenics was the idea that certain children shouldn't be allowed to be born. And that's a huge issue. And so I think that needs to be taken into consideration as we go ahead with this process.
And I guess that I'm not saying yay or nay to the name, one way or the other. I think that before the decision is made, that I think the students ought to have a really good understanding of either support or lack of support from our perspective, with the comments that were made here and other impacts that it could have in the community, especially since this came up really kind of after the process. Not that it may change what the decision has been made, but I think the school and the students probably could use some conversation and an understanding of why this particular name might not be the best choice, but I'm not sure that they have that yet.
It also falls under the realm of, quite frankly, at the high school level, I'm no longer interested in protecting our children from the real world, but letting them wrestle with it. I mean, given what's been presented tonight, it's an interesting name. Let's face it, it's got a certain amount of cachet given the Tesla car company. And, if you ask the average person, Tesla, well, if they've been in physics class, they've heard of Tesla coils. Have they heard about Tesla's eugenics position? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that it isn't something that should be taken into consideration. My opinion is rather that it's something they should have been allowed to wrestle with.
Well, I guess
I don't know that they didn't.
Well, the students weren't allowed. It wasn't on the ballot.
Well, the only
the students weren't allowed to wrestle with it.
There was another process involved, and I don't think we're acknowledging the fact that they've been involved in a 3-6, I don't know how many, it's been a very long process, and I don't think we know what all went on.
The only other thing I would add is, again, we need to caution ourselves or be careful because, again, we're going to be asking this community to pass a bond issue of $770 million. And all the schools in this community belong to everybody. And so everybody needs to feel like they have some stake in these buildings and in this district. And so we need to be careful of anything that we do that might take away from that particular aim of our stewardship of public funds. So again, I just be careful as we go forward that we keep that in mind, that all the schools belong to everybody in this community, and we're not, I think, doing ourselves a favor by potentially sending a message that we approve of a name that could really exclude a number of people in this community.
Siri?
In looking at the process, and I think part of the issue that the students have is that Tesla disappeared unknowingly to a certain extent, and they weren't knowing that until after the fact. Knowing STEM as problem-based learning is one of its big focus. This, to me, is a perfect example of civics and problem-based learning and the opportunity for students to be able to advocate, present both sides, and debate, which is vitally important, as we see currently within our government system.
Debate. Got it. Yeah.
Actually having one.
And speaking, so I do agree with, Director Pendergrass around the idea of, is there possibly the option of going back to the committee, presenting the case and discussing it, or at least opening the discussion around it. So that's, I think all the points are there. You have both sides of the issues, and it's the challenge of how do you now address this concern the students have brought when it didn't have the opportunity to be addressed prior, I guess is the thing.
Okay, we're making assumptions again that I'm still not certain are accurate.
Right, that's what I said. My assumption is that that was what happened.
So I'm going to highlight again what the procedure says, and then Cindy, you can speak to the question. So the procedure is students and family members nominate candidates. So I think at that point in the process, students, anybody can nominate a name. Correct. All that list of nominated names then goes to a committee of parents and teachers. Yes. And they're tasked with paring down the list for submission to the board for review. Then there was some back and forth with the names that were presented in that process, right? And then once the board had reviewed and said, these are the names that we're okay with of the list that was sent forward, the committee then further pared down the list based on information that they had. And they're tasked with really determining the list that's going to come forward to the board anyway, right? So I think maybe that's what Cindy could speak to, because from then that name, they were approved by the board, the committee further pared down, the ballot was developed, and the students then voted. So is there
That's accurate.
anything to add about what happened there?
That's accurate. When the number of names come forward, and then the list goes the first time to the board, and then you vet it out and send it back, and then the committee does more vetting out of, the approved list comes back, and it's then taken to the committee with the parents and the teachers, and then they vet it down a little bit further. And out of that process came these 4. That's exactly how that went.
So was Tesla on that list before it got pared down by the committee?
Yes.
Okay. So I think, I guess that's the piece, to me, there's an explanation piece that got missed to the students of why the committee took some names off of the list, or did you?
We didn't go back to the students and say any of the names that came off the list.
Okay.
There's another name that a majority of kids want that we didn't talk about either. So we
Because
did
that
not.
one didn't meet through the board review process.
It didn't make it
That
through
one
the
board
review
said no
process. So
to.
we didn't go back to it and with any of the names and say, not this one because, not this one because, not this.
So from a policy perspective, I think that there's really 2 options at this point. One is to say the policy's been followed, and the students have voted, and we have the results of that vote, and we move forward with having Cindy present the name to the board this evening. The other option would be to ask given the fact that we've got this petition, ask the committee to allow the students who made the petition and the students who are opposed to the petition to present that information to the committee for consideration. If we do that, it does make me wonder, do we allow the other nominated names to be considered as well, or did students know there was this option to, if we get enough people together around a petition, can we petition for other names too? So I think that's something for consideration from a policy perspective. If we did go down that road, the committee is still tasked, the committee of parents and teachers is still tasked with saying, these are the names that we're going to present to the board. If the board is okay with these names, these are the names that go forward for a student vote. So if at that point, if we decided to go down this road, and again, I think we'd have to grapple with what about the other names, there would be potentially a revote then if the name selection that got on the ballot changed as a result of this. So I think that that's really what the board's got to decide tonight.
It's a rare opportunity for us to name a high school. And it does, I feel like we ought to at least offer the administration of the building and the students to work this out rather than running roughshod over them saying, this is how it's done. But that is really just the opinion of one director. The thing I want to put out there for you is we've already got a school named after someone who was a proponent of the eugenics movement, Alexander Graham Bell. Do we want to reopen that door? Alexander Graham Bell, his second chief interest was the study of heredity and animal breeding, and he became an early supporter of the eugenics movement to improve human breeding. Bell did not go so far as to advocate social controls on reproduction. He did, however, decry the immigration into the United States of what he termed undesirable ethical elements from Southeast Europe. This is a very complicated space, and just because someone had a modern, unacceptable viewpoint on something that wasn't what they're famous for, does that make them unacceptable in any context? Anyway, so I would point out that to the committee, that may not have been a disqualifier for naming one of our schools. It is an interesting argument, but the Tesla coil is what he's famous for. He's not famous for his eugenics comments.
Of course, if we were going to be consistent about naming high schools, we'd do it on a geographic basis, which is what we've done with all our other high schools.
Yeah. The other high schools
I'm about ready to go that way.
Anyway.
Because I am very disturbed by the discussion.
As long as it's thoughtful, it's a good thing.
Nancy, the discussion regarding the policy?
No, the fact that we keep coming up, we don't live in the era when Graham Bell was named. I don't even, that was before any of our time. It was before the internet. This was the first thing people pointed out to me about Tesla. It was after we had already, I didn't know anything about Tesla. I was totally ignorant of who he was. But then the first thing afterwards is this is what people start pointing out. And we do have a different perspective because some of us are old enough to have parents who survived the 20th century. So it is a different time. But I also am disturbed because we did have a process, and now we're circumventing the process. And it may be a good thing to do, and it may not. I really don't know at this point. But we did ask this committee of parents and teachers to be thoughtful about the final selection. We've done that every time when people have kids have submitted the names, supported those names, and then the pairing process starts. And we do ask, you know, people to be thoughtful in what they're coming down to. So now we're telling them to go back and do it again. And, you know, frankly, I have problems with all of this. And I don't have a good solution. I mean, I understand that there are people who think that this would be a really cool day. I also think...
I would be with you completely. I'm really just, this is about students, and I want to let them participate in the process. We've probably come to the right conclusion already. But making sure that they're all along for the ride is an interesting question.
You know, and I think it's the explanation piece and the understanding from their perspective and their age why our generation and other people who live in the community might not find this palatable or acceptable. And I'm not sure that they had that explanation before, but we've explained to three that there are a whole bunch of kids who also need that explanation. And I think that's the piece that I want to be sure is communicated in the school, is the understanding of why some names ring not so well in the broad community when you're talking about 70% of our community who do not have children in schools, who come from, many of them from a generation even older than me, and that have memories that are different. So to have that understanding and explanation, I think, is something that the students have to have, and that may be true of a couple of the other names that are off of there. I mean, the Lovelace had its whole history of why it got...
It wasn't her anyway. It was the fact that there's somebody more famous with the same name.
It was the name itself and people assuming it was somebody different. By hearing the name, they didn't necessarily know it was a scientist. So anyway, that's my only thinking, is that is the explanation back to the students before a final name comes out, is to make sure everybody understands why the process is the way it is, and this is why the name is going to come forward the way the committee decided. So I don't know if it needs to go back to a whole new process, other than make sure everybody has that done before the final is done.
So what I'm hearing as a suggestion is that we're not asking the committee to reconsider or to not follow the procedure as it is. We're asking Cindy to make sure that the students have an opportunity to understand why the committee didn't include the name on the final list for the ballot, and that she have the opportunity to make sure students have that information prior to coming back next time to submit the name of the winning name from the ballot. Is that what we're asking Cindy to do?
Cindy, not to tell her, but you know, I'd like you to come back next time. Sorry. I'd like you to come back next time. I don't think I want to do it tonight. Give some time to do some thoughtful reflection and figure out what the right thing is to do. But to tell you what to do, you're the principal. Darn it, it's your building.
But I just want to point out that we are, from a policy perspective, it's the board policy that we need to make sure that we're following. And so if we either have to decide the board policy has been followed, or yes, it's been followed, but we want to make sure there's sufficient explanation for the students. So that's what we're asking Cindy to do. I mean, from a policy perspective, I think we need to make sure that, I guess I want to make sure that I'm clear on what the board is asking so I can help support Cindy in doing what we're asking her to do.
I think the only thing that would suggest to me that we review and go back and do it again, if that's something after you've had your conversation with the committee and talk with the students, and the committee comes together and says, you know what, we ought to do this again. I think you could make that appeal to the board to say, we'd like to go back to ground zero and start again, or come back and say, we're done, this is what we've got, and this is what we want to do. I think that's the option that's better, rather than us saying, go back and do it again, or don't do it again. I think we ought to have both of those. If you petition back to us and say, you know, we really want to redo the process, then I think that's a building decision. And if you think that's the best thing for your community, or if you think you stick to your guns and just need a good explanation of why certain names didn't make it so everybody understands it, and that this is what you're going to come forward with, then we do that. Does that seem like a reasonable
I think
option?
so. So if, but I just want to make sure, so when we have this conversation next time, the policy is that the committee of parents from the school and the 3 teachers are responsible and tasked with and have the responsibility to determine who's going to be on the list. So if Cindy and I will work together and make sure that this petition and the information is presented to the committee, and then it's the committee's determination whether or not we should reopen this, or if the name is then included on the list, then we would need to start back on step 3 and redo the vote, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that that's the consensus of the board.
I would agree with what you're saying. I think it gives an opportunity for unknown information coming out after the fact to be able to revisit it.
Yeah, I'd just like to have the school come away where the students really understand why the name is what it is and are comfortable moving forward,
and
rather than feeling kind of angry or, you know, we weren't listened to or whatever.
And if Cindy, if we go back and do that, and the committee stands with, we don't believe the name should, and we think that, you know, what is should be, then that's the recommendation that Cindy will come back with next time. And if we need to do a revote, then that's a different story, and reestablish a ballot. Is that?
Yes. Good with me. Everybody else? Yeah. You okay, Nancy? Doug?
Okay, because I just want to make sure, I guess why I'm stressing that is I just think it's important too that by this process, we're not telling the committee that we think they need to make a different decision, or, you know, irrespective of individual board opinions. This is about ensuring that policy is followed. And so I don't want the you know, the message to be, we're asking the committee to reconsider the name. We're asking that the students have an opportunity to
present their case,
share their petition with the committee, and the committee makes a determination one way or the other regarding the name.
And are we only talking about, maybe you and I will talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to deal with other names, you two decide how you want to handle that.
No, but it's just a final comment. Maybe I have a bizarre sense of humor, but we had to order more lanyards last week, and we ordered just STEM because I just knew. We have 50 more that just say STEM because I just said, you know, Lily.
Cindy, that's why you're an excellent principal. You can anticipate these things.
Very good. Thank you for coming out and staying with us this evening.
Thank you very much. And again, thanks to my students.
Yes, and thank you, all of you, for your presentations from both sides of the issue. It should be an interesting next step in the process. Okay. Superintendent's report.
Okay. I had plans to do superintendent's report and focus on an enrollment update. And given that some issues were raised around Rockwell as well, issues that we're well aware of, and we've been in communication with parents at Rockwell, I've also kind of incorporated a bit of an update with respect to Rockwell. So some of this information was shared in the letter for PTSA council members for their publication, but I thought it would be good to share it in the broader public tonight. So this fall, we welcome 780 more students into our district. Our September P223 enrollment was 26,089, which is up from 25,309 at the same time last year. Our preliminary October numbers also show some additional growth. Some of that's based on the fact that families were on vacation, for example, during the September count. But we do believe we're going to be potentially even up a little bit more than that. Our district, as you all know, has experienced consistent growth in recent years, and the growth is happening all across the district. The growth is very visible in some neighborhoods as new housing developments crop up. And so specifically, I know some of the folks who are here from Rockwell tonight were speaking about the development that's occurring in their area. On the one hand, growth is a positive indicator of the economic upturn in the region, and it's an indicator, I believe, of the fact that we have quality schools that people want to attend, and we've got great cities that people want to live in. The growth, though, begs the question, what's the district's plan to accommodate the growth? And people are becoming aware of the bond and levy measures, which will give us long-term more capacity to house students, but they're also curious about the short-term plans when they look at the immediate need in their own school or own neighborhood. So we, as you all know, do a lot of projection and enrollment planning, and over the last 10 to 12 years, our enrollment projections have become very accurate. Since the year 2000, the projections in our 6-year capital facilities plan have ranged from 97 to 103% of actual enrollment, and in the last few years we've been between 99 and 101%. So it's much harder to predict in the 10-year and longer range. Based on a 6-year time frame, we're very confident of our projections. So when we talk about the fact that we expect over 4,000 more students to enroll in our district over the next 8 years, we're confident in that number, and we know we need to plan accordingly for facilities. Each of our school buildings has what we call a permanent capacity. That's the number of students that the building was built to hold, plus space for students in programs like Special Education Safety Net and ELL. Some schools also have district programs like Quest and preschool. Schools also often have spaces that are used for computer labs, and spaces at the elementary school are set aside for music or a science art room. For example, an elementary school built with 25 classrooms may have 5 or even more of them dedicated for uses other than general education classrooms. It's been a long-standing philosophy in our district that students attend their neighborhood school whenever possible. So when enrollment at a school begins to grow, spaces like computer labs can be converted to regular classroom space. Now in our district, since students have netbooks, and students in our secondary schools have one-to-one netbook or laptop, converting computer lab space to regular classroom space is less impactful than it was in the past. We also look at other ways to create space when we need it. We may move district programs to another school location with more room. We often overflow kindergarten students to a nearby school. At our middle and high schools, teachers may use another space for their planning, allowing that classroom to be used for teaching space all throughout the day. We also rely on portable classrooms to house students. Many of our schools have portables on site, and these spaces are figured into the school's total capacity. At times, we also add additional portables to house students, and they're added when it's feasible given the site and the funds to acquire or move those portables. At times, a school grows to a point where we have exhausted all of the options that I just listed. Portables, using existing space within the school. For example, about this time last year, we were dealing with Rosa Parks, who had grown to nearly 800 students. There were 10 portables on that site, and it was not an option to add more. In that instance, there was capacity nearby at Wilder Elementary, so we were able to complete a temporary boundary adjustment, and that resulted in entire neighborhoods of students being shifted to Wilder Elementary, and that was implemented, as you all know, this year. This year, when we look at Rosa Parks and Wilder, both schools are now at capacity. All across the district, we have numbers of schools at or over their permanent or total capacity. One thing to point out here is that when we looked at the data for schools that have been modernized over the last several years, we've added about, if I can remember correctly, about 28 portables, not net add to the system, but we've been able to shift those from schools that have completed modernization, because when our long-term projection shows that additional permanent capacity is needed in that school, we're able to build that permanent capacity and move the portable capacity to a site that needs it. So we've added about 28 schools in, or excuse me, 28 portables in the Redmond learning community over the past recent years. We've added the total number of portables in the system, but we've definitely had growth there, and 10 of those portables are, of course, at Rosa Parks. What's that? Oh, number. Mm-hmm. So, you know, one question that comes up is, if our enrollment projections are so accurate, why do we have schools that are over capacity? So I think it's important for people to remember that in 2010, we ran a bond measure that was very close to passing, but it did not pass. And had that measure passed, right now we'd have 2 additional elementary schools in our system that would be housing students. We've got another bond measure coming up in 2014. That bond measure will have 3 additional elementary schools, the 2 that we needed back when we ran the bond in 2010, plus an additional elementary school, plus many other schools and spaces needed in our modernization. But I just wanted to point out sort of why we have this accuracy around enrollment projection, yet an issue with capacity at the same time. So of course the long-term plan to house students is to build new schools, but we know based on our current numbers and the fact that when the bond, should the bond pass, we're going to need 2 years to get schools built. We're going to need to develop some short-term plans to house students in those schools that cannot sustain until new schools are open and new boundaries are drawn. Right now, we're analyzing capacity issues across the district, and we're determining which schools are going to require short-term measures to mitigate capacity issues. And we're going to be engaging those students, or excuse me, parents in those schools that are impacted. Again, I think our enrollment growth is both a testament to the fact that families are attracted to our area and our cities, and we're grateful and glad to be welcoming new students and families into our system. When it comes to Rockwell, however, I know that, you know, while everyone wants to welcome new students into the system, they're also concerned when they see new development growth in their area when they're already at or over capacity in their school. So one of the folks here tonight mentioned that I sent a letter to Rockwell families on August 29th, before school started, highlighting that their enrollment was at 665 students, which is the same size they were prior to reconfiguration. So they're now back as large as they were before we made the shift to K-5 elementary schools. And I highlighted that, again, while the long-term solution to growth is building new schools, the earliest those schools would open would be fall 2016, and so we need to have a short-term plan for how to accommodate enrollment growth until that time. I let them know in the letter that during this school year, the 2013-14 school year, we'd complete a process to determine options for addressing growth in the short term, and we would involve parents in the process, and that we'd share more information once we settled into the school year. Based on the September count, Rockwell started the year at 649. On September 19th, just again to highlight some of the communication pieces that have happened so the board understands, on September 19th, principal Kirsten sent a letter to Rockwell families updating families that all of the principals in the Redmond learning community met with the district so we could really look kind of school by school what the enrollment picture was. And that's essentially part of a feasibility study that we're in the process of conducting right now, so we can look at what are all the options for adding some short-term capacity at other sites. We know the issue isn't just at Rockwell. Rockwell's experiencing the issue, but I'll share in a minute some the school size of the other schools in the learning community. We know that we can't add more portables to Rockwell. Kirsten communicated that to them as well, because I think part of the concern would be, are we going to grow to the same size as Rosa Parks? Is the district going to add 10, portables or 4 more here? And so we wanted to make sure they understood that we actually can't add any more portable capacity at the Rockwell site. And she let them know at that time in the coming months we'd be developing a community engagement process. This morning, Kirsten also let families know that based on the October count, Rockwell has received the additional IA and secretarial support that is standard that we provide to schools once they reach 650. So they started the year a little up. Pre-September, they were at 649 in September. Now they're at actually, I believe 661 is the figure that I have last. So they've met that 650 threshold to get some additional support, which I know is one of their concerns. So they've been given that allocation, and that was communicated to Kirsten last week, and she communicated that to families this morning. Last year, as I mentioned, Rosa Parks was at 800, and because there was a nearby school, Wilder, that was significantly under capacity, there was an obvious short-term solution. Not an easy solution, but an obvious solution. So by the end of September, we had a meeting with the Rockwell families, with the Rosa Parks families to say, we believe this is the solution is to move some students to Wilder, and then it was a matter of determining how a process involving parents to determine which students and how we were going to go about making that move. The situation in the Redmond learning community is more complex and is taking some time to determine just what are the options, because no obvious solution exists as it did in the Rosa Parks Wilder situation. So just to share a little bit of data, we've got here's the picture in the whole learning community. Redmond Middle is at 989. They're over their permanent capacity. They have 6 portables. Evergreen Middle is at 794. They're over their permanent capacity. They have 9 portables. Dickinson Elementary is at 477. They're over their permanent capacity. They have 4 portables. Einstein Elementary is at 487. They're over their permanent and total capacity. They have 1 portable. They're not able, and I should point out, Einstein Elementary is not able to have more portables added to the site. Dickinson could have more portables added to the site. So I know some of the information that they had on the yellow sheet is, I just want to clarify some of the facts.
Dickinson can have more portables? I thought Dickinson was half portables, but we weren't using the old ones.
Yeah, that's. Let me just finish here, and then I'll have Janine address that question, because I was just going to move back. Redmond Middle could have the potential for more portables. I'm not saying at this point we have decided what we're doing. It's just a matter of looking at what's the picture. Evergreen can't have any more portables. Mann Elementary is 436. They're over their permanent capacity. They have no portables. They could have portables potentially, but there's some site feasibility issues that we really need to look into in terms of how expensive would it be to put portables on the site. Redmond Elementary is at 406. They're over permanent capacity. They have 2 portables. They potentially could have more. Rockwell, as I mentioned, on this sheet at 650. I think they're actually at 661. They're over their permanent and total capacity. They have 5 portables. We can't add more portables there. Rosa Parks is at 649. They're over their permanent capacity. They have 10 portables.
Not adding any more there.
Can't add more there. Wilder is at 532. They're over their permanent capacity. They have 4 portables. We could potentially add there. So we're examining kind of what are all of the options in this feasibility study. And once we know which schools are potentially going to be impacted, we'll be moving forward with engaging the parents. In terms of a timeline, we think this will happen sometime likely in November. It's going to take us until November to really determine what are our options, and then we will move forward with working with the families and the impacted schools. So that's really where we are. Big picture enrollment, and specifically with the Redmond learning community.
And so in your discussions around it, are you looking at those special programs? I mean, I'm thinking of preschools,
Absolutely.
before and after schools, the Quest programs, all the different ones that those schools have, and whether or not those can move?
Yes,
Okay.
and it's that if they move, they have to have a space to move to. So what we're doing, that's kind of why I wanted to share the context of what I shared with the PTSA Council, because we look at, first we look at the space that's available in the school itself, computer lab conversion, all of those kinds of things. We look at, does the school have a district program, and would moving the district program help the situation or solve the situation, and if so, where is there space to move that program? In this particular situation, given the capacity issue in the whole learning community, it's probably going to require us looking at multiple prongs of a solution, not just a relatively obvious solution like we had in the case of Rose Parks and Wilder.
And I would imagine if you had to, possibly some of those programs might have to move out of the Redmond Learning Community, which is not an ideal
Yeah, and sometimes
situation.
the programs actually house the students who are in, from the learning community.
Yeah.
So there's a
It
lot
makes it
for us
harder
to
to do. Yeah.
It's just, that's why it's taking a bit longer.
And therefore, you really did address the 3 questions of goals, timeline, and accountability.
Yeah.
Which is what they're requesting. So I think it, from what I heard tonight, that they need to hear that November is
Yeah, and I was actually hoping
kind of,
that they would
yeah.
be here.
It sounds like November is when they'll be the
Begin.
time possible at the community meeting in which to do so.
Right.
As to when an actual final plan will be in place is still to be decided.
Yeah, and I think that would like to hear when that beginning is starting. From what they
It
said
is. I mean,
today.
part of the concern when I hear the child say he had 33 kids in his 3rd grade class, I've heard that, I mean, we hear that at schools at different times, and a lot of times that's just those bubbles that come through, but that is something to also, do we have classroom seat where we can put them, but what are the issues of our class sizes that are happening at these places too?
Yeah, and this year,
That's a lot in a 3rd grade class.
This year, and I think I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think it's really important that there is a difference between overall school size and class size, and depending on whether the decision is made to run splits and all of those factors that are locally made at the school can impact the overall class size. And so sometimes the school will opt not to run a split to have a larger singleton class, and that can happen in a large school or a small school. Yeah. So that was the case at Rockwell last year, but it's not necessarily directly connected to the overall size of Rockwell. This year, they really don't have that same situation. Their class sizes are all within what we consider, reasonable and comparable with other schools of, quote-unquote normal size. Okay. Janine, did you want to just, thank you. She's going to answer the Dickinson question.
Oh, yeah, Dickinson is half portables. I mean, it used to have a whole portable school, most of which I understood we weren't using. Are they, but why would we be able to put any more portables up there? And is there a possibility of fixing and using old Dickinson? I thought we had pledged not to or something.
And just so what we were looking at was where is the ability to add portables? And we believe that at Old Dickinson, we would, if that space were used and needed for temporary housing, we would remove the old portables that are there from the original classic Dickinson and put new portables in. Okay. So the old portables are not adequate for service given their age, and we also, as part of the funding of the new school, there's the whole, on the state match, you have to abandon that and not use it for instructional purposes. So we could, however, demolish those portables and put new portables there if we needed those spaces to house students in the learning community.
Could we do that at every one of those portable slabs? How many portables were portable Dickinson?
There's a number of portables that are supporting actual Dickinson, so not the one row closest to the school has been new portables has been put in there. We also have some portables for Explorer, so it wouldn't be like an entire school's worth of portables. We also have preschool out there, so. We're, as part of the feasibility, looking at the number of, additional classrooms that we could configure there, but it wouldn't be, an entire school's worth like when it was classic Dickinson.
So if we were to do that and use that as part of this issue with this bubble, or this growth is really more appropriate, is that going to get us any trouble in terms of our old commitment when we modernized Dickinson?
It's my understanding that no, because we would not be using those facilities. So it would be like tearing down a building and putting a new building on the same property. So it's the building, it's the structure that you're agreeing not to, it's not impacted, the land isn't impacted.
So just in terms, again, of process, where, with the feasibility study, we met with the principals in the learning community to get a better understanding of how they're using the space that's in their school right now, because that's really first what we look at is the use of the space. And then simultaneously, we're trying to see just which sites could or could not house portables. And like I said, we haven't really looked at expense associated with that or what it would really take, to do. I mentioned Man. Theoretically, they could have more portables, but we need to see what would it really take to do that. So I just want to stress that we're just trying to get a picture of what are all of the potential places where new space could be added in the short term if we need it to get us through until new schools open. So that's...
And no decisions have been made, so no one needs to panic that all of a sudden they're having portables move in.
Correct. That is correct.
I'm hearing the panics already go, what do you mean? No portables were decided to move as of this evening.
Thanks, Janine.
Okay, any other comments for Tracy? If not, we'll move on to our business. Consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Tracy, will you pull the board, please?
Chris?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Siri?
Yes. Okay. Our donations?
Donations. Okay, so tab 14, we've got a number of donations tonight. We've got $13,959 from the Alcott Elementary, PTSA to Alcott Elementary to provide stipends for a number of items to support their book fair, to support field trips, and to support reimbursement for office and copy machine supplies. We've got a $12,250 donation from Rachel Carson PTSA to Rachel Carson Elementary to support an outdoor garden and purchase a subscription to IXL Learning. A $2,000 donation from Christopher and Barbara Kaler to Emerson K-12 to support their art class, ceramics class, and to purchase school-related supplies. A $5,531 donation from Horace Mann Elementary PTSA to Mann Elementary to purchase subscriptions for IXL Learning and Accelerated Reader. An $8,000 donation from the Margaret Mead PTSA to Mead Elementary to purchase subscription for IXL Learning and Accelerated Reader, and for third through fifth grade student planners. We've got a $3,550 donation from Rosa Parks PTSA to Rosa Parks Elementary to support staff training. A $2,012 donation from the Mark Twain PTSA to Twain Elementary to provide a stipend for Math Club. A $1,200 donation from the Community School Parent Fund to Community School to support field trips. $2,718 donation from the Juanita Schools Foundation to Juanita Elementary to support volunteer program. A $1,275 donation from the Juanita Schools Foundation to various elementary schools to support the Lunch Buddy program at Redmond, at Kirk, at Blackwell, and Muir Elementary, and to support the district Lunch Buddy Fund. We've got a $20,000 donation from Environmental and Adventure School PTO to Environmental and Adventure School to support goals of the school and to be used at the principal's discretion to support students in the school. A $10,900 donation from the Inglewood Middle School PTSA to Inglewood Middle School to purchase 8th grade reading curriculum to support the library and transition program, as well as the homework program and the drug awareness program through Youth Eastside Services. Finally, we've got a $2,559 donation from the Eastlake Women's Basketball Boosters to Eastlake High School to provide a coaching stipend. So this evening we have a variety of different donors, Schools Foundation, individuals, PTOs, PTSAs, all totaling $85,954.94.
And we thank all of those donors. As we always say, all helps in getting the things that need happen at the buildings. Okay, that's our consent agenda, and now we're into our non-consent, and the naming of the school has been pulled, so we move from that one for now, tab 14. And now we're into report time.
Okay, Heather is here this evening to get us started with our ER reporting season. So tonight we've got ER 2-3 primary. And we'll give Heather just a moment here to get queued up.
So we're all sitting here kind of going,
Extremely exciting report tonight. She'll wake us all up.
Heather's going to just wake us all up, right, Heather? Then she's going to get us all awake.
Well, we're going to end the evening talking about kids. Isn't that great?
That's right.
That's
Very
great.
Appropriate.
Haven't we been talking about kids all night?
Well, we have.
But in a different...
How kids are doing. Yes. So, as Tracy said, this is our first of 4 ER 2-3 reports. Oh, I'm sorry.
There it is.
Thank you, Diane.
Okay, we're now awake.
Cover slide. Okay, this is really to support our mission and vision. Each student graduating prepared to lead a rewarding, responsible life, and that every student is future ready, prepared for college, prepared for global workspace, prepared for personal success. And some of the things we're going to talk about tonight with our kinders and our first and second and third graders absolutely are building those foundational skills for our mission and vision. This is also tied to our strategic goals, ensuring academic success for every student. The reporting calendar is part of our policy. Our ends result, ER1, will be monitored annually in January. And then end results 2 and 3 will be monitored annually as follows: primary in September, intermediate in October, middle school in November, and senior high in December. We're a little off this year because of our calendaring of our board meetings.
We always cause trouble.
No. The ends result data will be disaggregated by groups. We'll look at the whole group, and then we'll look at gender, ethnic, program, free and reduced lunch. When appropriate, include the length of time the measure's been reported, report district-wide, and build upon actual individual student performance data. And where appropriate, show a progression of class performance over time and show cohort data. These are the leading indicators of performance that the board determined, I believe, several years ago in working on the data dashboard. And this is the items in bold are the ones that you're going to see this evening. So tonight's presentation outline is we're going to look at the classes of 25, 24, 23, and 22. I know, geez. And they are our current first, second, third, and fourth graders, but we're looking back a year and looking at when they were in kinder 1, 2, and 3. We're going to look at our targets, do some initial data analysis before I launch in and showing you the support, the data snapshots around large-scale assessment, specifically looking at dynamic indicators of basic early literacy, DIBELS, as well as this is our baseline year for third grade MSP in reading and math. And then finally, I wanted to show you some baseline data around our interdisciplinary skills, which is really measuring ER3. Okay, so just to introduce a little different terminology this year, I'm going to be talking about progress data as well as growth data. Progress data is the year to year. It's comparing a fourth grade to a fourth grade to a fourth grade over time. Different kids, but you can see the trend with the instructional piece. It's also used in our annual measurable goals, our AMOs. So that's our progress data. The growth data is going to be talking about the class of data, the cohort data, the student growth percentiles, a term I know that Tracy wrote a board brief about last year or earlier this year. And our student growth percentiles, we have not had those released yet. They're going to be released in November to the public.
So I'll just briefly interject there. For years and years, the state's been reporting progress data, and as Heather mentioned, our AMOs, our annual measurable objectives, are based on that. They're also looking at a new way of reporting out data, which is student growth. So did these students grow from 3rd grade to 4th grade? They began doing that last year. It was not publicly released. This year, they're going to publicly release that data. It's set to happen sometime in November. So we're trying to work on how could we potentially also look at the student growth percentile data as part of our ER reports moving forward.
Thank you. And this evening, you're not going to see a lot of growth data because, again, this is the baseline year for MSP. Yes, ma'am.
Will the growth percentile actually follow specific kids, or will it still just be 1st grade to 2nd grade?
It'll follow the cohort. So in other words, when they're 3rd grade, they were 3rd grade last year, when they take the MSP, this year is 4th grade. So next year when I'm here reporting this, I'll be able to compare 3rd grade scores with their 4th grade score.
And any new 4th grader won't be there, and any 3rd grader who didn't stay would not be in there.
That's right, if you don't have the previous year's data. So they're really looking at a clean cohort, and are they showing, did they have high achievement and high growth, high achievement, low growth, low achievement, high growth, low achievement, low growth. So it's kind of putting it in little bubbles.
So this evening, want to remind everyone what our performance targets were for this year, and then do a little analysis on where our strengths are, analysis of where we see some opportunities for improvement, and then give you a data snapshot, and then just wrap it up with some conclusions around our strategic work. So our targets for performance progress, the top line is around DIBELS, and setting the baseline performance in 11-12, it was 87%. This is for kindergarten. And our current performance at the end of 12-13, we are at 82% of those children being at benchmark. Our target performance for 2018 is 95%. So we did lose a little with that group of kindergartners. However, if we go to the 3rd graders on track for success, percentage of 3rd graders mean exceeding state standards in reading, the baseline was 86%. Our current performance for the end of last year was 89%, and our AMO target was 87.2. So we exceeded our AMO target. As well as percentage of 3rd graders meeting or exceeding state standards in math. We had baseline at 82, our current performance was 83.4, and our target was 83.5, so we almost made that one. So just some strengths about some of our data. 3 out of 5 of our Title I schools met or exceeded benchmark on the end of year DIBELS. So they were, when we look a little bit later at our snapshot, we'll see that we had our overall, all schools were at a certain benchmark, and 3 out of our 5 Title I schools were in that grouping. 89% of our 2nd graders are reading at benchmark, measured by the end of year DIBELS. Fewer students at strategic or intensive after 3 years of DIBELS monitoring. And we met 3rd grade AMO targets for 12-13. Progress data, the year-to-year over the last 4 years, overall 3rd grade math MSP has increased by 10%. And our subgroups, Gender, we've seen an increase in math over the last 4 years. Ethnicity, Black and Hispanic students have made an 8 to 10% reading gain, a steady increase in math for all groups, and a 15% increase for Black students, 21% increase for Hispanic students. Matches, I won't say it. Then looking at our data and doing a little analysis of where we see some opportunities, again, in our progress data, DIBELS, our end-of-year DIBELS data is pretty constant over the last 4 years. We haven't seen a lot of growth. Third grade MSP over the last 4 years, our third grade reading MSP has remained constant without a lot of positive growth. Subgroup progress data, third grade MSP. Gender reading scores remain constant, with females scoring about 6 to 8% higher than males. Again, this is third grade. Ethnicity, white students have remained constant in reading over the last 4 years. And in program, students that are enrolled in special ed and ELL, fewer than 50% of our special ed students and ELL students are not proficient in reading and math.
Heather, just one clarification if you go back real quick. Fewer than 50% of our students in SPED or ELL are proficient, correct?
Yes.
It's not fewer are not proficient.
Yes, that would be a double negative. Yes, thank you. So we have.
Just real quick.
Yes.
This has not been posted yet, has it?
No. I mean, it has, I sent it to Diane, but probably late.
Because under our current board folder, we have the ER
It's not
high
that.
school. Oh, good. It's not just me.
No.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're following along on last year's ER report?
Thanks.
On the subgroups, did you look at free and reduced lunch? Or no
I
one could?
did.
Okay.
And I have some
Is that coming
information
up?
about that,
Okay.
yes. Okay, so to give you a few snapshots of our data. This is end-of-year DIBELS data for kindergarten, for first grade, and for second grade. And when I said earlier that our DIBELS seems to be kind of flat, you know, we don't see a lot of growth, we don't see a lot of movement out of intensive or strategic. And that's, you know, I think I reported last year that once children are on that trajectory, it's hard to get them off. And I think what we have, we're asking teachers to do is progress monitoring with those intensive kiddos at least 2 times every 2 weeks, and the strategic every 4 weeks. Trace?
Heather, these are all different groups of students, right? So
These
this is
are
the
all-
end of the
thank
year
you.
2013. This is how our kindergartners were doing, how our first graders were doing, how
Yes.
our second graders were doing.
Correct. These are not the same kids. These are 3 separate groups of kids, students. Okay. These are our scores for 5 years in DIBELS. Again, these are different students, but you can see kindergarten over 5 years, grade 1 over 5 years, and grade 2 over 5 years. When we look at MSP, third grade reading and math, the percentage standard, this is 4 years over time. And whereas our reading stays pretty constant, we have seen an increase in mathematics. This is our gender. Again, girls are reading a bit ahead of males, and we have seen a steady increase in math. This is third grade reading percentage standard around ethnicity in the 4 years. Flat scores for Asian and white students, but our Black students and Hispanic students, we have seen an increase in reading. And in math, the same thing.
Just a quick comment. This is a whole lot easier to read than what I remember last time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yay. Well, I have a story when we get later into it, because I was getting fatigued looking at all these bars. So then later on, we're going to see different colors.
Oh, good.
This is our reading and math percent at Standard for Special Education and ELL. You know, this continues. We have, I think, some of the positive things that we've done to address this. We have more time set aside for specialist groups this year and for professional development. Our special education teachers are coming together at a district level. Our ELL teachers are coming together to receive PD. Our safety net teachers, and so we're trying to be much, much more intentional about that. For our reading, we have new materials for special ed and ELL, our WonderWorks, and again, there's going to be intentional professional development around that. Our preschool programs have adopted OWLs. I remember last year, I think it was May or June, when the teachers were here talking about the adoption, how excited they were. They continue to be very excited about this, and OWL stands for Open World to Learning. Yes, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. Low income, Siri, and I have a different look at this a little bit later on when I'm doing some comparison, but this is our low income numbers for reading and for math. Okay, so now we're going to get into, this is some baseline data. This will be growth eventually, but this is for our kinders, class of 2025. Number of students, there were 2,200 and some in the class as of this year as first graders. I would ask, why did 641 not test? They weren't enrolled. We do have some of our kindergartners who choose not to stay with us because they didn't get into all-day K, and they tend to seek other opportunities. This is the current first grade. This is the beginning of year, middle of year, end of year testing. And again, we don't see a lot of change there, but a couple of, I think, really positive things. Our 5 Title I schools continue to offer summer school to support our students not at standard in literacy. And then our intensive Kinder Safety Net program, this is the second year for it. It started last year. It was at the 5 Title I schools, Muir, Einstein, Frost, Red L, and Rose Hill elementaries. And this year it's expanding to Keller, Juanita Bell, and Lakeview. So Kelly Peace has been really working with this group of schools for this.
And did you see different numbers in the sense of the data and that strategic and intervention component of the schools that had that intensive intervention?
We did. And do I have it for you right now? I don't, but I can get it for you. So I mean, I think Kelly did some really thorough analysis. I'm looking at Matt.
Part of it's because those numbers don't show that any of the strategic intervention worked, honestly, looking at that. And I know that's because those numbers are so small that you're also working with in those Title I schools that we're not talking a huge number of kids.
Yeah.
But I think that then begs the question, if that's something that's valuable, how you fund, that's also looking at options of all-day K. It can drive a lot of policy questions of what we want to do.
Yeah, I know Kelly was very intentional about the schools that, you know, she moved it into, so let me work on getting that for you.
Heather,
okay.
Can you go back one slide real quick?
Whoops, wrong way.
So would the goal be that these numbers would be going up? I mean, or does the test get, this isn't the same test 3 times.
Nancy, thank you for asking that. No, this is not the same test. In fact, the test gets increasingly more difficult as, you know, the middle of the year is now testing different skills. The end of the year is testing more skills. And so when we don't see an increase. In some ways, that could be expected because we're testing for different skills. However, when we are doing the progress monitoring on the intensive and strategic kiddos and really trying to drill down and look at what instructional practices we're putting into place, that's the goal, is to move those kids to benchmark.
Well, because this would indicate that they're starting the school year already divided, and that's not changing a whole lot.
Yeah, and what we don't...
Is that basically it? Yeah, Matt's
and what we
shaking,
don't know
agreeing.
in this data, that's, I think, another good point, is whether the 10% of students who were in that strategic, or in the 10% of students who were in that intensive, we can't tell from this slide, are those are the same 10?
Right.
Or did some, who were at benchmark move to intensive,
Yeah,
and
did
some
any of
who
them
were
slide back?
intensive? But through the DIBELS process at the schools and the data collection, they know which kids have either moved out of benchmark into intensive or out of intensive into benchmark. And so the students who are, as Heather said, either intensive or benchmark, either at beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, go on a 2-week progress monitoring cycle. So the idea is you try these instructional strategies, you progress monitor the kids, you see is my instructional strategy making a difference?
Well, it gets to we do need to keep trying and keep working, and we haven't quite gotten it. But we've also seen a lot of somewhat depressing research in the last few years that says that, and these are making big assumptions on, little slides, but that kids who come to us behind are so hard to catch up. And that's an area that we've been working on my entire time on the board, and that we still need. Obviously, you're still working on it.
So if I recall correctly, the beginning of year and end of year assessments aren't actually the same assessment. It's a moving bar.
What we
on
just
this
said.
one, yeah. Now,
That's
one
correct.
of the things I'm curious about is the assessment quantitative across the board? That is, can you show us trajectories for each of the kids? Because if it's something where your score is 20 to 30 to 60 or something, could we see that? That would give us a sense of whether these kids down at the bottom are indicative of they're changing. We're focusing on these kids, which means those kids fell through the net. Or is it the same kids and the interventions just aren't bringing them up to, they're never catching up? I'd really like to see that.
And I think that's important for the schools and what you do. I guess when I look at this, what I'm looking at is our goal is that at the end of year, we don't want 1 in 5 not at DIBELS standard. I mean, that's basically what I'm seeing here. It's been consistent from year to year.
Right.
And even if it increases, the reality to move out a safety net and to shift from these is you have to have accelerated learning in that time frame.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Instead of 9 months, you need 12 gain in that time frame. And I think the work with the intensive kindergarten is really getting to that component of how do you accelerate that learning in that time frame. So it'd be interesting to see that, to see how that compares to what we see here.
That plus the summer school, identifying those children who were not at benchmark and shortening their summer vacation down so that they did have some additional time around literacy, learning to read and to write.
And if I remember correctly, Kelly's data collection of the students who were in KinderNet last year shows that they grew at a higher rate than the non-KinderNet students. So they made more growth over the year based on DIBELS than their peers who weren't in that program.
Yeah, which is why we spread it and moved it into 5 more schools.
Right. I mean, and having had the opportunity to go out to the intensive kindergarten and see it, it was interesting being able to talk to the teachers of the difference between KinderNet and All Day K and why those were not the same things, and very specifically and targeted. So, I mean, that component. And luckily, one of the teachers who I saw was also trained in multisensory techniques, the Orton Gillingham methods. So she was utilizing a lot of those with the kids, which addresses learning disabilities and dyslexia at a young age. So there's a lot of, it would be nice to be able to see that and then be able to help support it.
Absolutely. The next slide is some of our subgroups who, the green were performing better than all groups in the end-of-year class of 2025. The benchmark score for all groups was 82, and so we had female, Asian, multi-ethnic who scored above the all group. And then on the right-hand side, we did have the subgroups performing worse than the all groups at 82. But again, you can see their data points across the top. Some of them didn't miss it by much.
I hate to be a statistical snob, but this means nothing. 80 versus 84%. The question is it statistically different? Unless you have exactly the same number, boys or girls will do better than one or the other. Is this 4% difference significant? That's what I want to know. Is the across ethnic groups difference significant, or is this just random noise? I guarantee that SPED versus not SPED is a significant difference. That means something. But male versus female, I'm sorry, no. Your numbers almost certainly don't mean anything in terms of that being a significant difference. So just because there is a difference doesn't mean you need to show it to us and tell. I only care about the ones that are meaningful, where there's actually a gap that we can do something about instead of just sample it again next year and hope it goes away. Sorry, I just had to rant on that topic.
So you're requesting, I just want to make sure so we know for next time, you're requesting that we don't show
the girls are doing better than boys.
We just show this.
If they're not doing significantly better than boys,
okay.
I don't care.
In looking over a lot of the subgroup data through different ways, consistently it will be low income
Yeah.
versus,
Absolutely.
because the low income is really the capture of the ethnicity. So we could just look at that and focus there. And just use that as a focus for this year to see what happens.
Those
to
are
make
the
it a
spaces
little,
I'm interested in.
and then, special ed, ELL, those are continually the ones.
There would be fewer slides.
There would be fewer slides, and then maybe we can go a little more into that component as well. We lose a little bit by not using, it'd be good to look at the ethnicities if there's anything jumping out differently, and be able to pay attention to that as well. But gender, for the most part, hasn't played out.
This is, I wanted to take a look at the schools to see if there was any, huge difference there. We had 16 schools that were at 82%. We have 31 elementary schools, 16 scored 82% or higher. I think the great part of that is 3 out of the 5 were title schools. And then we had 15 schools that scored lower than 81. I'm sure that probably isn't significant, yeah.
Were those 3 of 5 the ones that the KinderNet was in?
KinderNet was in all of them last year.
Oh, in all of them, okay.
Okay, I included this slide because this is even though it's not part of our targets, I think it's important to note that at the end of 2nd grade, we want our children to be reading. It's important before they head into 3rd grade. It's sort of, if they're still having problems at the end of 2nd grade, that's concerning. So we want to make sure we know who these students are who are not at benchmark and ensure that they're provided the services that they're needed. So what's happening is that schools are identifying who those students who were strategic and intensive, and to see if they're going to be the same kids who might not be at standard on MSP when they take it this spring. So we want to, see if there's some correlation and what kind of interventions have we put into place. I'm going to just skip over that one and that one. Okay. This slide is, again, because this is baseline data, but I thought you appreciated seeing some district comparables. So what we have in blue is the Lake Washington School District, and then we have State, Bellevue School District, Issaquah, and North Shore. And this is their current 4th grade class of 2023. Actually, I apologize. It's reading and math. Sorry, I just have to do this really quick. It's terrible that I know the current fourth graders will graduate in 2022, but I do. So Matt, yeah, it's reading and math. I think just a side here is that with our new literacy adoption, it's directly tied to the Common Core. All of the districts are being asked to respond to the Common Core state standards, but we've been very fortunate in having the timeliness of our literacy adoption, and we've worked very hard at aligning the curriculum and the assessments and really working on some very strategic PD for our teachers. Again, we don't need to look at that for sure. I did want to talk a little bit here, and Siri, it goes a bit to your question of poverty needs to be, it is a major factor in this. I'm talking about the reading MSP right now on the left. Our Hispanic students in reading, it's about 215 kiddos total. We then disaggregated for poverty versus non-poverty with our Hispanic students, and we found that our low income, 63% were at standard, versus our non-low income Hispanic kiddos, 88% at standard. Right. Our N for our black students was very, very small. For our low income, it was only 10, and we did not see, I am afraid to say this, but we did not see a statistical significance there. Okay. Again, for the class of 2022, current fourth graders, reading and for SPED, ELL, and I know low income is really not a program, but it is part of a free and reduced lunch data, so I put that in together. And then on the right, we see our math. I did want to include a slide on interdisciplinary skills. This again is for our third graders. This is the end of the year report card data. And the skills being thinking, collaboration, citizenship, personal attributes. And we see we have a high number exceeding standard or at standard. And we do have a number approaching standard, not at standard. And I wanted just to remind everyone of some of the programs that we have in our elementary schools to help with these interdisciplinary. Number one, the OWLS program that will begin in preschool does work on interdisciplinary skills, teaching kiddos how to line up and how to share and how to treat one another. We also have Kelso's Choices, which is a kind of a positive culture building program. We have First Step, which is also a program that is more anti-bullying. And then this is our second year of participating with the University of Washington in a pilot. It's called Second Step, and it's out. They're working with the Center for Children. And Second Step is a program that really focuses on the social emotional welfare of children. It has an anti-bullying aspect, but it's a much bigger piece than that. And so in this pilot with the UW, who is conducting the study, we were given at no cost all the materials for Second Step, and which has been a great opportunity for us. We have 4 schools that came on last year. They're in the second year of the study, and then we pick up 4 more next year. Also, in addition to this, we do have a .5 counselor in all of our elementary schools that teach these interdisciplinary skills, reinforced, of course, by the classroom teacher. And we do have 7 sites of elementary schools that have a 1.0. They're in all of our title schools, plus 2 additional. So I'm not going to go over this again. I added it because it's much of what I talked about throughout the presentation, but if anyone were to get on, they could see some of these conclusions. Just to tie back our strategic plan, our high impact areas for elementary, this is our Common Core state standards this year, the new literacy adoption, our continued work around PLCs, PCCs, which is professional community collaboration, RTI, and our new principal and teacher professional growth and evaluation systems. And then lastly, I wanted to call out that we are continuing our work with our refinement committees, ensuring that we have the appropriate instructional program for our K, and you'll see there's K 1, 2, 3, and in the slide show here, but it's been refined through committee work. We've had groups of teachers that have come in, and they have refined our standards, taught and assessed, and tied to our curriculum and using the Common Core, and wanting to make sure we had consistency of minutes for our children. And you'll see there are 4 of those. Questions?
While you're all thinking if any questions you might have, first I just want to thank Heather for all the hard work that she put into this. Before ER reporting season started this year, Heather and I met to reflect on presentation format, what we think we heard from the board last year, went back through old emails that we had received following ER reports to see how could we put the data together in a more digestible fashion, include more analysis, more snapshots versus every single piece of data, be more selective about, what is the data telling us, and focus on throughout the presentation what we're doing based on the data that we're seeing. So in addition to any questions, we'd appreciate any feedback just in terms of the approach tonight, because if you like the approach, we'll continue this approach with the subsequent ER reports. And like I said, Heather's done a great job of putting together all of the slides and really, digging in. So if you have feedback that you want to share tonight, great. If you want to share it after tonight, great. But that will help inform what we do for the next report.
I have a question. The slides you went through real fast there at the end. Thanks, Diane. It's up on the portal. I've been being asked by a group of parents that are part of some state group, it sounds like, I don't know, I haven't really had time to look into it, about our arts education. So this is interesting. This is our current time allocation, did you say? I didn't quite catch that. Or
yeah, the 4 slides that have the instructional minutes for kinder, for first, second, and third, yeah, I can pull it back up.
That's our current.
That's our current.
Okay, and so music is separated out from this arts. What do we mean by 1 hour a week of arts education at this level? Do you know?
Matt, do you want to speak to that?
I remember.
I think that for this, it is separated out because when the committee was working on that, they were thinking traditionally of visual arts. And so they are thinking of either use of an art docent, combination art docent, student art time. So actually constructing art or doing art, if you think of it that way. So it's really that kind of, I would say the emphasis would be on visual arts rather than performing or music.
Okay. I think the implication of this group is that we're not doing our duty when it comes to the arts, and it is my understanding that, we are still offering music, we are offering orchestra, band, obviously we have a number of offerings at the middle school, or at least I think at the middle school, I know at the high school level. and that our elementary schools are still having some art. I mean, unless they're only doing it for the board, they're still including artwork as part of what they're doing.
They are. In fact, I remember, because I was on that committee at the time in a different role, they were really actually advocating that we need to look at the importance of art in the early grades, particularly as a part of the curriculum, as a development of the student. So that wasn't just willy-nilly add to the chart. That was intentional.
And how does that fit with the, I assume we're still working somewhat under House Bill 12, what was that House Bill, 1289?
1290.
12, the one that had the goal 1 and the goal 2? 1209. Boy, it's been so long since anybody raised it, I was kind of surprised. But we're still working within some of that framework that was developed, including the arts education.
Right now at elementary, they receive specialist time for PE, music, and library. We have expanded band and orchestra opportunities in the context of reconfiguration to include 4th grade now, whereas it used to begin at 5th grade. And in our strategic plan, one of the areas in development phase that's being worked on right now, it's not being implemented yet, is a new K-5 visual arts curriculum.
What page are you on?
That's on page 4. So I don't know, I remember we had some email recently, maybe Chris, you were involved in that email because someone is asking about our visual arts curriculum, and so we can even use that same information and update the board about the progress of that visual arts curriculum and our approach to that. So that'd be helpful for Nancy too. Okay.
Thank you.
Nancy, just to pull just a little bit, between grade 1 and grade 2 and grade 3, there's a change of about 15 minutes at each of the levels. So arts in grade 1 is an hour, and then 30 minutes in grade 2 and 45 in grade 3. And some of that has to do with, I believe, the math and the literacy instructional minutes.
Well, yes, and I appreciate that. And I mean, the truth is, it is hard to get everything in, and you all know that we're still not doing foreign language. So we are still not getting everything in that we would really, at least I would really like to see us do. But it is a balancing act.
It is indeed.
But thank you. I appreciate these slides, and I do, as I said before, I do like the new way of presenting some of the information. I'm not quite as fussy as Chris, but I'm sure you can manage to accommodate that.
And we allow that to
Her other words for that.
Any other questions for Heather?
But I don't use them.
I think I liked having not as many.
Thank you.
Is there any way to get it before the board meeting, or is that not possible?
That's kind of cool.
Can we do that as a stretch goal?
As somebody who has a very difficult time finishing a PowerPoint until 5 minutes before I'm going to use it, I'm very sympathetic to the difficulty.
I totally get that. It would just be helpful for me to be able to see it prior.
I agree.
To be able to better prepare what.
When I taught English, I said, you're never done editing, there just is a due date. So
that's a good line. I like it. It's true. My boss probably wishes I would use it.
We could try for that. However, the other thing we could do is start the next one with just a revisit if there's any questions. Maybe it's too much time has passed then. I mean, I get what you're saying. We'll see what we can do. I was just thinking if we could, if now that you have it and you've got time to get into it and you have questions, we could potentially weave the answers to those questions if we have them into the beginning part of the next ER report.
You could also send the board the draft, because I'm sure you draft it early, with the caveat that you're fully entitled to, make your changes and post the final. As long as I can get it while you're talking about it, I'm happy. Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
I would be perfectly happy with a draft.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you,
Much
Heather.
appreciated. On to legislative. Anything, Doug?
I attended the Legislative Assembly that was held on September 19th and 20th at the, I guess it would be the Marriott at SeaTac. And we considered and actually adopted 52 new legislative positions for 2014, ranging from being able to publish legal notices on the internet to some major battles over whether to support the DREAM Act and that sort of thing. We also prioritized our legislative proposals, and I won't go through all of them, obviously, but the first three were full funding of basic education, strangely enough. Second was professional development, and specifically fully funding the release time and training up to 80 hours. So in other words, so that was actually, I had some input into that because, as you recall, there was, it's been a couple of months now, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction was making noises that he might not want districts to do that, to use that time instruction. What he just wants us to spend our money on instructional time, and I don't know how we were supposed to come up with the professional development and planning time. But this is kind of a pushback saying, we're not even going to go any of those places until you fully fund, or at least fund up to 80 hours of professional development. And then finally, number three, I'm just giving you the top three, was we need a sustainable revenue source for basic education funding along the lines of the Supreme Court decision. And the only other thing I would add is that we had a very compelling presentation by one of the Supreme Court justices. This is the first time we've ever heard from a Supreme Court justice about their take on the decision. And what was interesting is that, and forgive me if I didn't get this correctly, but she gave us kind of a brief legal analysis, and her take on what their intent was is that in this state, a child's right to a decent education, basic education, is an affirmative right. And the analogy I would use to that, in other words, they are entitled to that education. And the analogy to that would be, take the Second Amendment, which is, the right to bear arms. The analogy to that would be the state would be required to give you a gun. So this is what the Supreme Court's decision is that children in this state are entitled to not just an education, but an education that's defined at a high level. So it was really interesting to hear that and to get a sense of where the court was in making that decision, and the fact that they will continue to monitor it, and we'll just see how things unfold.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for going and doing that.
Wait, you mentioned that there was discussion on the DREAM Act. I thought WASDA supported the DREAM Act years ago, or something equivalent to a DREAM Act.
Yeah, and I can't remember now in the context whether this was establishing it as a the way we do it is if it's considered 3 years in a row and adopted, it becomes a permanent position. So I can't remember now whether that was the context in which that was discussed, but it was one of the elements that we voted on was actually, there was a call for a weighted vote, and it was actually a statistical tie, 214 to 214, and the chair broke it against it, unfortunately, but it's still there's still a lot of passion around, the whole immigration issue and, whether WASDA should get involved in the middle of it and that sort of thing. So there's as a recent article in I think it was in the Seattle Times. No, it was a program that was produced by Channel 9 talking about racism in the state as it applies to Hispanics, and it pointed out that in a recent statewide election where a justice named Gonzalez was reelected, he was appointed, he didn't carry, I don't think he carried a single county east of the mountains because he had a Hispanic name. The person who is an Anglo, who was the other person on the ballot, wasn't even deemed qualified by the state bar. And yet, because he had an Anglo name, he carried every state east of the Cascades, every county east of the Cascades. So there's a lot of, frankly, racism going on as it applies to Hispanics in the state and the way that they're able to access quality education.
For sure. Okay, anything else? Any board follow-up? Future agenda items?
I was going to say, I'm sure he's my presumptive successor, Mark Stewart, and I, were able to tour some of the schools on the Plateau and Alcott and the STEM school. And Ken Lyon set that up, and we had a good, it was a quick tour, but we had an opportunity to get a sense of what was going on. And we have a few more to do that we'll get in sometime before the end of the year.
Great. Anything else, Siri?
I just had, in looking at donations and actually just having conversations with some PTA, there are a lot of our PTAs currently that are supporting an IXL program, which is the math-based program. And it's consistent. I had seen this about 3 years ago starting to come through in different ways, and I know the foundation funded for a while as well. It's a math fluency program very strongly, and it definitely seems like there is this need that's being expressed by the community that our children don't have this. So is this something that we need to be looking at and paying attention to in regards to that? It's interesting to me, looking at math fluency. I'm looking at what the community is saying, sort of what they're willing to put their money to, and actually it was an interesting discussion at a PTA meeting where they were choosing not to do leveled readers because they believed that the curriculum was strong enough now and wanted to see what would happen, whereas 5 years ago with the foundation, we funded leveled readers throughout this district. So it's interesting to me now that we see this with IXL, continuing in, and it really is a math fluency program when you sit and look at it. It's a drill program, which is great. You need to be able to do it fast and quick. But I'm wondering if there's a sense of a lacking piece in our math curriculum.
We can do a follow-up on that. Just off the top of my head, what I would say is that we've got, our historic practice has been we adopt a core curriculum that does everything, and schools have wanted to fund supplemental programs through PTSA, so through the foundation, and we've kind of identified what the list of approved supplemental programs are, and that's been our approach. For historically, accelerated reader and that kind of motivational reading program has been there. IXL, some schools use Dreambox. So there's sort of a number of math and literacy programs. Whether it points out that they want it because there's something lacking in the core curriculum, or they want it because kids like it and it's fun and it fills a need, and we'll have to dig into that more specifically around IXL. I know that, and Matt, I'm looking to you to correct me if I'm wrong here, but Envision has a tech component, but it's not a tech component that does like, I mean, essentially, I'll just say like electronic flashcards kind of thing, right? That it doesn't have that. And I mean, whether there's a need for that, probably, I mean, people have been using flashcards, you know, forever. The fact that it can be delivered through technology and teacher can get some data back, or whoever's working with the students, is probably a good thing. I think it's just a matter of, you know, what we've got essentially an established pie of resource that we have through the technology component of the capital projects levy set aside for instructional software. And, you know, we've started to have the conversation about, so how do we best use that pie? And right now we fund things like Discovery Streaming, trying to think of some other tech examples of.
Well, Dibbles was funded out of that, right?
What's that?
The Dibbles assessments were funded out of that, weren't they?
I don't know if we fund Dibbles out of the capital tech. I'd have to double check on that. We fund Turnitin.com.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some other, I can't remember the name of the literacy one. So there's some that we've funded and provided for all, and then there's some that we've said, you know, you can use this if you can get the funding for it, either through PTSA or through the foundation. Last year, Matt worked with a committee of principals to try to look at, okay, this is how much money we have left of the current expiring tech levy, and is this the right way we want to be using the pie? And we can maybe provide a follow-up on where we landed with that. So we kind of have started the conversation about how are we using those resources, and what should we buy for everybody, and what should we allow people to purchase through PTSA and foundation.
The piece I really like about Dibbles, of all of our assessments, is my favorite because it's actually a formative assessment. And the absence of a numeracy formative assessment in parallel in third grade really does just, it's like, why the hell are we using the MSP? So if Envision didn't come with one, let's find one. Let's find a good one so that we know where did kids start third grade. By the time you finish third grade, you ought to at least be, I mean, addition and subtraction, you should be fluent. Multiplication and division, you should be working on it. But we should know where our kids are, and I don't get a good sense of that from the MSP. I don't like the MSP as a formative assessment. So I would really like to see something like Dibbles on the math side.
The kind of history on Dibbles, which you probably all know, is that we're required to do a reading assessment at grade 2. So the state assessments for reading and math start at grade 3. We're required to have an assessment at grade 2. Dibbles meets that requirement, and we we adopted it for kindergarten and first grade too.
It's better than the MSP. I'm sorry. I love it. It's a good metric. Dibbles is my favorite assessment we give in the district. Sorry. Just very supportive.
So you'll provide us some follow-up?
We can give a follow-up with just sort of where we are with that whole conversation, and yeah.
All right, any other?
Yeah, I got one more.
Okay.
In reading the strategic plan, and remember, and see, I read it, your strategic plan. The science curriculum, our strategic plan, my fault, that it said it was in implementation, the science curriculum for high school, I believe. And I couldn't remember, and I couldn't find it, I apologize, for where it was in that 2-year cycle. And we had talked about with the reading curriculum of being able to engage the community earlier in the process. So my question was, were we able to do that with the science piece?
So science, just to clarify, is in development phase. We're not implementing it. So yeah,
yes, my phases.
It's on page 4. So we are we are working on we're in the adoption process, the 2-year process for new high school 9-12 science curriculum. We found out just yesterday or the day before, a press release from OSPI, Randy Dorns adopted the next generation science standards. That's one of the things that we've been sort of waiting for, because we want to make sure we adopt materials that are aligned to standards. Matt, we're in year 1 of that process or year 2 of that process?
So where is the community in all, I mean, has that been thought of where they're going to fall out in all of that? Because I know in our community, science is a huge technical skill that's out there that would like to have opportunity.
So I think I just want to make sure I know what you're asking so we can follow up appropriately. You're asking for you're asking for where we are with the community engagement process around the science curriculum
Yes.
adoption process.
And what the community engagement piece will be. Because we did do it after the fact, so I remember that conversation with Wonders, maybe we could have done something a little earlier. So that was the question.
Gotcha. Okay. We can follow up on that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, one other thing, and I was just thinking about, before, on our to-do list for the end of the year, we need to find a new, we know who's interested in being the ledge rep.
Yes, we know.
The session gets
Nancy and I
underway.
tried twisting some arms last time we were gathered. So think about it.
So
I think we nominate the new kid.
So we need to get her or the person in place so they can hit the ground running.
Okay. Sounds good. I already heard a volunteer.
I have a comment. Have we got to comments yet?
No.
all
Coming.
right.
That was ending future agenda items. Any debriefing? Comments, Nancy?
I just want to congratulate the district on a stellar audit report. Complicated to read the stuff, but basically, bottom line, stellar. Thank you.
I just think it's interesting that they just finished and they're coming in next week and starting again, or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks to start the next audit.
At the exit conference, he essentially said, at the end of this meeting, we'll set up our next meeting for the next cycle.
It was like,
But,
oh, okay.
yeah, thanks, Nancy, and I, big thank you to Janine and Barbara and Lynn and everyone in the business office, Pat Segrist, they're really to thank for those stellar results.
Any other
They
comments?
do yeoman, way above yeoman work.
Hearing none. Our next meeting is October 21st, and we're starting a little different. This is when we're putting into place our different second meeting of the okay. Our next meeting is October 21st, and we'll have business if we absolutely need to have something that we need to do. So it'll be a very brief business meeting, should we have one, and the time really is devoted for a work session, which will begin at 5:30. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.